Today on
Doomed!
Defeat the Mandates, everybody. Defeat the mandates. No more mandates. No more mandates. Come on, say it with me. Say it with me. No more mandates. No. Actually, I gotta put my guest up because he's doing it with me. Let's do this. No more mandates.
More mandates.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, no more mandates. And I'm actually being quite declarative. I'm not requesting anything because there literally is no more mandates. Yet on today's episode of Doomed with Matt Binder, we'll be talking about a huge event that happened in Los Angeles over the weekend, which saw anti-vaxxers, far right-wing conspiracy theorists, white supremacists, the usual, pals, meeting together in LA for a Defeat the Mandates event. And I can tell you they weren't being declarative. That was a request on their end. You heard him in the background chanting with me, so let me pull him up on the screen and give him the proper introduction. Here we go. There we are. Ladies and gentlemen, joining me now, Abner Häuge. He is the editor-in-chief of really one of my favorite resources if you're tracking the far right, Left Coast Right Watch. And I am super happy I said it right because in my own time, I always accidentally say like Right Coast Left Watch like a buffoon. But Abner, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hello, Habibis. Glad to be on, Matt.
It is fantastic to have you here. And you attended, which I would assume was a victory party this past weekend in LA, right?
No, it was more of a very sad showing of a let's keep trying to beat a dead horse and air our grievances one last time before we have to move on to a new grift rally.
Right. It's incredible that these anti-vaxxers, and I'm sure there's going to be a number of them who listen to this and go, I'm not an anti-vaxxer. I'm just anti-mandate, which you're an anti-vaxxer. But these anti-vaxxers are living in this world where they aside from obviously people getting vaccinated, a world where they didn't win. We are still in the middle of a pandemic. Thousands of people are dying each day still. And we are now I'm going to say for the most part, because I'm sure there are some places around the country. I know Philadelphia, with cases rising, they just reinstated their mask mandate, which they did not have. But I could say in New York City, and I believe in Los Angeles, and really New York State as a whole, as a New York resident, and in California. You're based in Cali, right?
Yeah.
In California, there are no more mandates. Two of the biggest cities, states with the biggest cities in the country. No more mandates. And here they are living in this world where they are fighting the man to not wear masks indoors, outdoors, wherever. And guess what? They could literally just take off their mask indoor, outdoor, whatever, and be fine because that's not the rules in most places in this country anymore.
Oh, yeah. Nobody out here is wearing them anymore. It's has been that way for months.
Right.
I mean, there's been a couple of times where okay, there's a spike. We'll put it back for a couple weeks. It's super unpopular with a very vocal minority of people. Okay, Gavin Newsom gets scared. He takes the mandate off again. So,
right.
It's really kind of sad because we're almost at 1 million people nationwide who've died from it now. And, there's a few very, very heavily blue areas in California where, people will give you a dirty look if you don't wear one, but that's it. It's done.
Right. So we'll get to this more, I'm sure, because it's going to come up throughout. Let's get to the event. Let's jump right into the Defeat the Man. It was this past Sunday, Defeat the Mandates. I believe they even went so far as to call it coast to coast, because this is a nationwide event, baby, nationwide movement. And some of the names were surprising to me, because I guess really, one specific name stuck out to me because I missed the discourse that apparently happened in January of this year, when the Mighty Mighty Bosstones broke up, and their singer Dicky Barrett was the reason for it, former voice of the Jimmy Kimmel Show. And the reason they broke up, and the reason he's no longer the voice of the Jimmy Kimmel Show, and again, I missed this until I saw his name on the flyer, is because he's an anti-vaxxer. I mean, that one hurt. That one hurt. As as someone who's never knocked on wood, it really hurts to see that. But I mean, I'm sure that if he, if you asked him why he is an anti-vaxxer, he would just say that he's sure it isn't good. And if you asked him why, he would just say, just the impression that he gets.
Well, I just feel like it's not good because I read something online and it made me feel good about myself. So, I'm just going to say I feel smarter than everybody else because I've taken this crazy position, like any conspiracy theorist, right? It's the same. I mean, it's the same shit over and over. Am I allowed to curse on this show?
You can say whatever the fuck you want.
Okay, good. Yeah. It's always the same bullshit, right? It's the same thing, even up to flat earthers is right. It's like I'm taking a crazy position, not just because like it makes me feel smarter than everybody else, but it means that in order to engage with me and the people I agree with, I have to have power over you. I get to have power over you where I get to shape your perception of reality to a bit in order for you to engage with me. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Like, if you're a flat earther and somebody close to you wants to stay in your life, they have to put up with your shit. And it's basically a form of abuse. So,
right. Also, just the plainly for some of these people, it's also just to, to be a contrarian, to feel like you are fighting the good fight. You see that something is popular and you automatically assume it must be popular. If the corporate news media and the mainstream Democrats and your rhinos, Republicans in name only are out there and they're vaxxed, that must mean it's bad.
Well, yeah, it is that, but there's this isn't said very explicitly, and you kind of have to dig really, really deep to get this part. But there's something else really implicit about it, which is it's survival of the fittest in a way.
Right.
And the only people who were really saying it explicitly were open neo-Nazis on Telegram when the pandemic started, who were talking about contracting COVID themselves and trying to be, forgive the very vulgar reference, but be kind of an AIDS Mary with the disease.
Right.
Or typhoid's Mary with the disease.
Right.
There's neo-Nazis who were just planning to do that. And the implicit thing is, well, if I don't and you don't survive this disease, you don't deserve to, you've been weeded out. That's pretty much what the implication of the whole natural immunity thing is it's just eugenics.
Right. That's a great point. It reminded me too, what you just said reminded me that early on in the pandemic, and I don't know what happened to this podcast and what happened to this guy, but I explicitly remember talking about it on this show with one of my guests, and we're talking either in March or April 2020.
I think it was Hayden.
Where one of the biggest podcasts that started just to cover the pandemic, daily COVID updates, ended up it was uncovered that the guy running it was a white supremacist, full out white, like he wasn't telling people on that podcast, but if you searched his name and found his background, it wasn't hidden that this guy was just like an open white supremacist, and a lot of people were getting daily COVID updates from him. And now I don't remember exactly what I heard from that podcast, 'cause it's so long ago now, and I didn't keep track of it. But I'm assuming his daily updates were very much at least tinted with his white supremacist ideologies.
Oh yeah, no, I mean everything's a vehicle to push somebody farther in whatever the extremists' like personal grievance direction is. Like say you're say you're a vaccine person, but what you really hate is just autistic people. You're not gonna focus on like kids dying from it. You're gonna focus on, oh, this gives kids autism. Like there's this Nation of Islam guy who one of his big talking points at the rally was like, vaccines give kids autism, and his whole thing was like references to, was it causes autism in black kids. And
are you talking about Riza Islam?
Yeah, that guy.
Yeah, he is, by referencing another episode that I did, he is one of the 12 people who are classified by the Center for Digital Hate as the Disinformation Dozen. One of the people responsible for something like 60-something% of the anti-vax rhetoric that's shared on the internet, on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Like, this guy is a major source of COVID-19 disinformation, and he was at this event speaking.
And his entire speech was just, oh, that's a veiled reference to the Jews control the world. That's a veiled reference to the Jews control the world. That's like, I could hear the triple parentheses around half of the things he said. It was just, and he had, I think, more than, what was really fucked up and scary was this guy had the mostly white audience like in the palm of his hand. He was a better, just in technical terms, a better orator than like any of those other guys.
Right.
It was really frightening.
Yeah, I mean, to be one of those 12, I'm sure you would develop some sort of personality that people can hang on to. So when you got there, did you attend the whole thing? Like, did you saw? How is it set up? First of all, like, because I was looking at some of these photos, and this was set up like the fucking Warped Tour. To show my age, I don't even think there's a Warped Tour anymore. I didn't go to many festivals, but it was set up like one of these huge fests. Like, you think of one of these rallies. And when, in New York City, we have, these little anti-vaxxer get-togethers in like Central Park or whatever, or Washington Square Park. And it's usually like, a milk crate with a guy with one of those like bullhorns or whatever. This was a huge setup. We're talking huge festival-esque stage, giant PA system, professional sound.
Well, the thing is that you could tell that they poured a fuck ton of money into it.
Do we know who is they? Do we know who are the money backers of this thing?
I could probably find out because the work's probably already been done. It's the same people as the ones who did in January. I'm just kind of blanking because I'll be honest, like, the things that LCRW kind of specializes in are less the follow the money stuff and more the, okay, let's look at it on the ground and see what happens and see how it plays out on the ground.
Right.
Like, we do a lot of tracking, like individual actors who show up time and time again and aren't necessarily even part of the speakers, but just there's people on the ground who, I mean, I can talk about them later if you want, who just do bad things and use them to the opportunities to recruit and stuff like that.
Oh yeah, let's definitely get into them, but I guess let's focus on like the people who are the invited guests first, the guests of honor.
right. The people who are there to.
Who would you say was who would you say was the main event? Like, who were people most looking forward to at this thing? I want to try to get, because I have an idea of who like the big names in this world are based on what I see, but I wonder if that matches up with the anti-vaxxers themselves, like, or is there like 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 an indie underground of really big anti-vaxxers, and like the anti-vaxxers like them better than like the mainstream anti-vaxxers.
So it's a little weird. I think at this point in the anti-vax part of the far right outrage like machine, the rhetoric's a little bit played out, and everybody's heard Julie Mikovits and like what's the other word? It's Kate something or other. What Kate Wolf or whatever her name is.
Oh, Naomi Wolf.
Yeah, Naomi Wolf. Thank you. Why did I say Kate Wolf? Anyways,
How can you forget the Twitter master that is Naomi Wolf? Rest in
Oh
peace, her
yeah,
Twitter account.
yeah. She was the main character of Twitter so many days of my life.
Was she the main character of this or nah?
Oh well, let me say this. I have to apologize for this lingering cough I had from a sinus infection that I got because I went to the first stupid trucker convoy event like a month and a half ago.
Okay. I thought you were going
That
to say
was
maybe you have to get tested because you were at the
oh,
anti-vaxxer thing,
I
right?
mean
Well, I'm a safe distance from you, so
yeah, don't
so don't worry
about
about it.
it. Yeah, don't worry about it. I take my precautions and I've been boosted, so I'm not that worried. But the thing is that I went to this trucker thing and a bunch of those truckers returned. So what I saw, which was really fucking bizarre, was all of these speakers are saying the same shit, right? Like different iterations of the same shit. They all have their own personal little story or talking points, but they're saying the same thing. And whenever they'd mention like, oh, the vaccines it gave my kid autism or something, or the vaccine like gave like the vaccine killed my kid, or these vaccines are child abuse, like they get roars of applause from these fucking brain rotted boomers. And that was kind of the background, because like the trucker convoy and the anti-vax stuff, all of it is basically a veneer for QAnon stuff. They're all still, the rank and file are still just all QAnon people.
Right.
And so they want to hear like there's some evil people that are doing horrible things to kids and we're going to kill them all. And when anything that touched on that kind of point happened, that's what they all cheered for, because that's who they are.
Right.
But the other thing, the weirdest thing was, I think I counted like 22 of the trucks from the convoy came back, the People's Convoy, because that Brian Brassey dude spoke.
Right. They had a, again, to a note,
Yeah,
a point of reference there to what we were, the joke we made in the beginning about how they're basically protesting mandates that
yeah,
just don't exist. I mean, the People's Convoy traveled all the way from the West Coast to Washington, D.C. to drive around on the Beltway to
yeah,
basically protest mandates that don't exist. And then they drove back to Cali and are once again protesting mandates that don't exist. Like there is no, there are no federal mandates to even protest. I mean, there's nothing. There's
yeah.
absolutely nothing.
Well, the thing is that what was the weirdest thing was they, at a certain point in the rally, kind of later in the day, after they'd been hearing these people drawn on the same talking points on and on and on, over and over and over again, all day, all of the trucks were going to head out in a big parade. And everybody just rushed up and they started running around and partying like little kids going, "We, yay, the trucks, there's the trucks, there's the trucks." And like the security had to like gently like coddle people and like get them away from these fucking big rigs so that they wouldn't get like smushed. But these people are all just like cheering for these fucking truckers and these big rig trucks to go by, because the last thing in their memory of, I think part of it is the last thing in their memory of right wingers really fucking winning something and doing the kinds of things that they wanted to do, what wasn't J6 anymore. It was the Canadian trucker convoys where they would just like disrupt huge parts of a city and like wreak mayhem and get to be racist and like assault people and get away with it for weeks. And that's what they want to do.
Right. They really, yeah, it's an absolutely right assessment. They really look at the Canadian Freedom Convoy thing as like their big victory, and they like hang on to it and feel like that's like a major thing, and they tried to recreate it here. And we could think what as leftists, anti-fascists, we could think what we want about those Freedom Convoy truckers in Canada, but they were successful in doing what they set out to do, and just doing their thing and blocking a whole city from being able to go about their daily lives. But the one here was a joke. I mean, a complete joke.
Yeah, it was a joke, but we have an article about this. LCRW, we kind of like did this full fundraiser. We got like about $4,000, and we kind of covered the convoy as it was going to DC, and then while it was in DC until we ran out of money, and our reporters just had to go home. But we covered about up to the first week of the convoy, I think. I mean, the first week of them landing in DC. And the thing that's really sinister and insidious is they built up infrastructure, like protest infrastructure, the way mutual aid organizations did after the George Floyd uprising. They have these supply chains now and people who know each other in ways they didn't. And even though it was a flop, it was a huge like success in saying, okay, if we're going to lay siege to a city like DC with like militia guys and like a bunch of dudes who have big rigs. And by the way, when the Oath Keepers chat rooms got leaked, one of the big things that people didn't really catch on to and report on was in the Oath Keepers membership lists, Rhodes had this column that was, can this person operate a truck or not? Why? Because it's so important for logistics in any kind of like on the ground military thing, right? Like, I mean, this country's roads were designed for like so that the army could get around quick in case of like insurgencies or uprisings or invasions, right? And I mean, I hope I don't sound too conspiratorial. Like we read LCRW, we read a lot of like military strategy documents and stuff. So, I sound kind of like Dale Gribble sometimes, but like, these guys, I mean, in no-name towns in Arizona were showing up, and there would be thousands of people at every stop, like giving them stuff like food and blankets and water and shit so that they could get to DC. And I mean, imagine if they were that much better prepared for J6. That's not good.
Right. Right.
It's really not fucking good.
Right.
Because J6 like worked because DC police were overwhelmed. Like somebody and they were overwhelmed because they had to set up, they had to like deal with 2 different bomb threats at 2 different locations, and then they had to deal with the Capitol. And you know, they just didn't have enough people, and some of the people in the the Capitol Police were just, you know, on the insurgent side. So you know, it's it's not looking good. Like they're like, if you talk to somebody like Brooke Minkowski, she'll tell you this is kind of like this has been a 40-year plan, at least, for like right wingers to like, for a global right wing, like far right, you know, insurgency. And I mean, you look at like Viktor Orban, you look at like all of the shit that Steve Bannon's doing. It's all like been built on 40 years of, you know, building up the religious right to what it is, building up militia movements to where they are, building up like the, you know, accelerationist terror from like William Pierce to on all the way up to, you know, past McVeigh. And it's all been headed in this direction as a movement. So, you know, it's not, I can't help but view this whole thing through that filter.
Right. We've been quite lucky that the people who um, go to carry this stuff out end up being so incapable of doing so.
Yeah,
Just yeah,
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 yeah.
because
We've
there's real, there is a real. I mean, it's, we're seeing it now more so than ever for sure in terms of this global far right movement all coming together. It's been happening for years now. I mean, you saw it
Mhm.
with just even like, you know, even in you know, look at Trump, Bolsonaro, all at the same time. These were right wing leaders, you know, getting elected. So absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah, it's something to definitely keep in your head whenever you see something like even this defeat the mandates event, which
yeah.
we're having a little bit of fun, you know, mocking because it's
Well,
certainly worthy of that. But also there is a serious, you know, it's a serious thing too.
and let me say this really clearly. There were about 1,000 people, but this was, but they really if you look at the park they chose, Grand Park in LA, right by a federal building, right by LAPD HQ, City Hall, all of this stuff. It's like this little patch of green with some fountains that's nested in between all of these very tall government buildings that were kind of built to withstand like McVeigh style attacks. So they're like, you know, the security is very good there for them, and you know, they get police liaisons and everything, obviously.
Right.
But also, it's, as a stage, it's fucking brilliant because you only need 1,000 people to make it look like a lot more people than it really was.
Right.
Like if you're wandering around, like, it was dead. It was so boring. It was like all of these, you know, a lot of these people on the far right, like a lot of them grew up in church and they're used to like church and their parents and other assholes droning on and on and on at them for like hours on end, because like, and they're okay with it because then they get to do that to their kids and make them horrible too. So, you know, like they're fine with being talked to for hours and hours and hours because when they get up, they get to go do something fucked up. And this time it was just like there was no counter protests. There was only the closest thing to Antifa was like me wandering around and they don't fuck with me because, you know, I mean, I have a gun on my hat, and every time they try to talk to me, I just like complain about ammo prices, like, because I'm like, oh well, what do you guys recommend for holsters? I've been thinking about this one or that one or something, and they just go, you know about guns? I'm like, yeah, dude, I write about you guys. I have to. Like,
Right.
besides, they're fucking cool and fun. But like, sorry, the thing about it is like that whole area was a really good stage to set up something that would look bigger than it actually was. And sorry.
That's all right. Do you? I mean, it was obviously done purposefully because I guess they weren't expecting such a large crowd. Because they had a. We were talking earlier. They had an event months earlier that did draw a larger crowd, I believe, right?
It's about like 3,000 or 4,000, right? In
I mean,
DC.
that is a lot more.
I
That
mean,
is.
it's
Yeah.
yeah, it is, but it's like, I mean, come on, like compare that to like compare that to the spontaneous stuff that happened in LA, like after
Sure.
George Floyd.
Right.
Like you could barely fit a human being through that part of town during the first few days because everybody was out there. Like
Right.
you couldn't fit cars through there.
Right.
Like, and so when you compare the size of the movements, it's like a joke, right?
Right.
But the thing is that leftist movements, it's like, okay, let's get a mass of bodies out. Well, that was great. Maybe we did something. But when the right does it, they know they don't have numbers, so they really fucking think about infrastructure. Like, you saw all of the, like, they had all of this money to get these giant, weird LED movie screens to project the show onto. They had, like, big LED signs with their propaganda. And
Right.
I mean, the cops are happy to go along with it, first of all, because a bunch of them agree with it, and a bunch of them voted for Trump. And second of all, because like they filled out all the proper forms and permits and they kissed their asses properly. So,
Right.
It just like the system just works for them.
Right. I'm looking at some of the names. We were talking about some of them earlier.
Sure.
I just want to name off some of the people who were speakers at this thing. We got we mentioned earlier Riza Islam, Naomi Wolf. We got Kevin Sorbo was there. Wow.
Yeah, Hercules.
Hercules, yep. We have Jenny McCarthy apparently sent a video, right?
Yeah, it was. I mean, it was supposed to be her like public debut after the whole debacle with her, but I guess she chickened out and just
Wait, what
you know
debacle with her? I missed this. There was a debacle with her?
how. Well, I mean, there's something about. I mean, there's some big uproar about like her being anti-vax or something, and like she
Oh, okay. Well,
kind of
that's no
got
surprise. That's who she is. She's been like that for a long time. Yeah.
right.
Dr. Pierre Corey was there of the FLCCC. I had Dr. Osgood, who famously left that group and speaks out against them on last week. Those frontline doctors who push ivermectin as the end all be all of COVID. Still, after everything.
Yeah. I mean, I feed my dog horse paste once every month because it gets rid of his heartworms, but
Ooh,
that's
Dr. Malone was there. Dr. Robert Malone, Joe Rogan famous right there.
oh god.
Yeah,
Yeah.
we got the Brett Weinstein.
Oh
Oh.
yeah, that fucking coward.
Here's a name. Here's a name I like to see on these events. Max Blumenthal of the Gray Zone.
Ooh.
Did you
Yeah,
see him there or no? You missed him or?
well, here's the thing. I'm a little embarrassed to say that I didn't pay a huge lot of attention to the speakers because there were some neo-Nazis walking around looking for me.
Ah, there we go.
And then at one point I had to leave because somebody I knew that they hate more than me because she is a woman, like, and she was getting followed around by a guy with an earpiece. She's I won't name her because they'll harass her more. But I had to go back to my car and like get her the fuck out, and then come back and repark and go snoop around more. But sorry.
QAnon's fave was there too. I mean, a lot of these people are probably QAnon's fave, but QAnon's like one of QAnon's highlights. Laura Logan, I see she was there.
Yeah, she was there. God.
Oh, and here's my favorite one. I want to save him for last. Oh, Kim Iverson was there from The Hill. Craig Pasta Jardula from the Convo Couch was there. I debated those guys a couple of months ago before before I guess he went full blown anti-vax. I mean, I know he was always there, but he went full blown. And then, of course, my favorite name to see on this list, the one, the only, Jimmy Dore.
Yeah, I was actually kind of curious to hear what you thought about Blumenthal and Dore there, and saying, "Oh, well, this isn't a left-right thing. This is us versus the triple parentheses elites thing."
Right. Who am I hating for this again? I mean, I'm supposed to be angry that the doctors, scientists and doctors and medical professionals helped create this vaccine. I mean, I don't agree with obviously all the various corporate stuff and various different government corporations combine joining forces to do certain things that I don't agree with. Like, for example, the laws that were passed to absolve Pfizer and Moderna from anything that could go wrong, from any lawsuits or whatever. I don't agree with that, but I was really angry that they created this life-saving, and it is life-saving, vaccine. I'm really angry that public health officials, and they don't realize this, but the public health officials who got masks instituted, we can now see that wasn't the popular thing, these mandates. We had people in government who did not want this stuff. They hated that this stuff was there.
God, yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, it lost so much business for so many people. Democratic politicians didn't want any of these mandates and things. They were reluctant to enforce them for so long. Here in California, it's like, it was the first few weeks, sure, but Gavin Newsom had this huge, embarrassing fucking thing where he said, "Well, we're reopening California," and he had he did it at Universal Studios and had fucking Optimus Prime and the Minions behind him while he did it. It's one of the most surreal videos I've ever seen. You should look it up.
I'll have to check it out.
Yeah, no, it was great. And then there was another huge wave, and everybody had to clamp down again.
All right, we had our own mayor here in New York City, Eric Adams, for weeks. He's been knocking remote workers, people who can work from home, who are still working from home, saying it's time to get out of the pajamas, put on get dressed and go to the office. And he just came down with COVID and has been missing in action for the past couple of days after, again, weeks of telling everyone to get back to work. I mean, these guys at this, end the mandates, defeat the mandates event, they are literally on the side of the big corporations, the big real estate interests, who are literally saying, fuck whatever's going on, get your ass back to work because our pockets, our profits depend on it. These guys are on their side and they think they're the ones fighting the man.
Well, you shouldn't be surprised about that. Oh, come here, Gino. Sorry about ice cream.
Oh, do we have a special guest here?
But yeah, this is my dog. Okay. Anyways, so
what's your dog's name?
Dino.
Yeah,
he's licking my feet earlier.
You could tell the truth, Abner. That is actually your brother Dino, who unfortunately now looks like that after getting vaccinated.
Yeah, actually, this is my little brother. So I'm not lucky enough to look this handsome yet, but hopefully they'll They'll make me take a fourth dose, and George Soros will get me looking like a pug.
To make sure that nothing happens to my YouTube channel.
Oh
Hello
God!
YouTube. This is
You knocked
that
out my
that was a
headphones again.
joke. Fact check, full disclosure, whatever you want me to call it. Dino is in
Mm,
fact a pug. Has always been a pug. You know, vaccines are safe,
well,
folks. Please go get vaccinated.
yeah. Honestly, like, look, I got vaccinated, and I kept going to right-wing rallies, and I didn't get sick.
Yeah, I mean that says
I
enough
think
right
they
there.
worked.
All right.
Yeah, you know. Oh, Dino, I already fed you dinner. Yeah, I'm sorry. Before you started licking me, could you remind me what the last point was?
I actually don't remember. It was something about a pug and getting vaccinated. But
Yeah,
let's actually jump because there was a few more things I wanted to ask you because you were talking about
sure.
how many people were there, like 1,000 people, and then you mentioned something about how this was basically like candy for boomers. This event. What were the demographics? Was it mostly older people, like boomer age, or like what was the makeup? Even like mostly white people, mostly older people. What are we looking at here?
It's mostly older white people, and they're very, very eager to show you like the non-white people that they use as tokens. And there are some, and there are some people from other um, demographic groups, communities, etc., who believe a lot of awful right-wing shit. Like, and there's historical and material reasons for all of that you can pick and choose and discuss. Like, there's this, I mean, I could go on and on about like different individual Proud Boys and why they're fucking still Nazis even if they're not white. But um, it was mostly over 50 white people, and I mean, it's been that way every single rally I go to.
Right. I mean, it tracks. But I did notice something interesting in the photos that I saw from this event was it did seem, and this is only by people's dress, so who knows about their, what their actual political ideologies are, but dress, what they were wearing wise, um, seemed like there was a decent amount of like what would traditionally be what like an older left wing hippie would wear, like flower power type stuff.
Okay, so I
Give me
don't
the
know if
lowdown. It sounds like there's something interesting here. Go ahead.
if you're a fan of the QAnon Anonymous podcast, you'll already know about this, but there is a huge, huge convergence between nominally. Hey, Dino, get away from that. Dino, come on. There's in he's there's these rug covering some stuff that if he knocks over half the stuff in my closet, it's gonna fall over. Um,
Dino.
Anyways, but if you've watched the QAnon Anonymous podcast, like there's a huge convergence of like new age hippie bullshit with vaccine shit. I mean, anti-vax shit, and after that, the anti-vax hippies kind of just converged with the Trumpers, and there were a lot of. I mean, if you go up and talk to people in like Shasta County, up in Northern California, like a bunch of the old hippies up there voted for Trump, and I mean, it doesn't surprise me because I've studied enough like far right horseshit to know about esoteric like Nazi occultism and how that intersects with a lot of like spiritual beliefs like the Blavatskyism and all of this stuff that kind of just split off, and some of them became Nazis, some of them became hippies, and if you look into it, like you'll see tons of conversions throughout.
Right. Right. Yeah, I've done a few. QAnon Anonymous is great, but also for my listeners, definitely check out some of the episodes we did here on like the yoga types and the new age people all
Oh,
joining
those are
in.
great.
Yes, those are a lot of people who are gotten into this, and it was over. That was one of the things that was so crazy about it. And QAnon Anonymous did a really good job of covering this aspect too. Um, during the pandemic, again, this is like how it all converges, right? Here they are blasting the pandemic and saying it wasn't real and don't take your, no, and vaccines are gonna turn you into demons or the devil or snakes. That's the latest thing. That vaccines are gonna turn you into like snake, like it's
Yeah,
actually
which is
made of
just
snake blood. It's gonna
bloodline.
turn you into a snake or something like that. I forgot what it was all about today. I have that documentary I'm gonna watch next. Oh boy. Maybe I'll have to do an episode on this show where we watch it together, like we did with some of the previous ones.
Oh boy.
Yeah. Watch party, baby.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
But one of
but
the
you
things
know,
that was interesting there is that if it wasn't for the pandemic, a lot of these people would have never even found out about QAnon. It was them being home, bored, looking for answers to what the hell's going on, and then they stumbled across QAnon, basically like the QAnon tentacles getting into all this stuff,
mhm.
and then they fell upon it, and they were like, oh shit, let me dive into the rabbit hole, and here they are now, hippies, flower power hippies, new age yoga people, believing that Donald Trump is the only person fighting against the global pedophile elites who are eating children.
Yeah, and the weird thing is that a lot of that stuff has always been present in like the new age hippie shit. Like, um, there's a weird thing I kind of found out through UQAA, QAnon Anonymous. There's this one cult I've been meaning to put a pin in and look at for a long time. There's this woman who goes by the name Kaya Ra, and her whole thing is like talking about how she was, like she has this whole thing about being reincarnated a bunch of times and dying and coming back to life a bunch of times and talking to the ascended masters, like, you know, uh, like different spiritual women throughout history or whatever. And um, but she has this whole thing where she basically like takes the plot of the first season of Stranger Things, and like she basically who's the actress or is it in that who played the girl they're experimenting on?
Oh, Millie. Oh
Yeah,
boy.
Millie Weaver, right?
No, I think that's not right.
No.
But Millie Bobby Brown. There we go.
Oh yeah, Millie Bobby Brown. So basically, like this Kaya Ra woman, um, who has this thing called like the Sophia principle or something. She predates QAnon by like a few years, but she has this whole thing about how there's like satanic pedophile elite cabals that are doing like that are doing child trafficking, but she's kind of like this liberal hippie wishy-washy like, you know, person who talks about like self-actualization and, you know, meeting the ascended masters and orders of angels and shit like that. But it has a bunch of the QAnon stuff in it. And I think the reason is because a lot of the ascended master stuff, if you look back a century ago, is kind of very intimately tied with the beliefs that were core to Nazi occultism. Like they came out of this woman, like I forget her first name, but her last name was like Blavatsky or something. And she talks about all of these like ancient civilizations that were technologically advanced, and we're talking to the spirits of those people and like getting hidden knowledge and blah blah blah. And of course, the Nazis turned that into, oh well, they were the ancient Thulians, and we're the descendants of Ultima Thule, and we're the master race, and blah blah blah. But a lot of that was implied because the Nazis didn't get their ideas from nowhere. Like um, the kind of hippie spiritualism that was happening during the late Victorian era and into like the early 20th century colonialism was this kind of spirituality that was saying that, oh well, white people have a predetermined destiny to be this ultimate race that enlightens everybody else, the civilizing mission thing. But it was translated into this kind of spiritual wishy-washy shit by a bunch of like um, just assholes who are going around saying, oh, there's pyramids in South America and there's pyramids in Egypt and there's pyramids in, like, I don't know, Cambodia or something. So they must have all been connected and been made by our great Aryan ancestors or some shit. That kind of thing. I'm paraphrasing their stupid beliefs because I kind of don't respect them, but
Right.
You get what I mean.
Of course, yes.
So, and if you talk to like old hippies on Mount Shasta today, they'll say stuff like, well, I was reincarnated through a lot of different races in my life. And like, I used to be a Chinese person in another life, and I used to be black in another life. And, I think, all of the ascended masters get represented as white people, not because they're actually white, but just because they're purer than everybody else. And like, fucking, that's the way they talk about this stuff. And it's just like, they don't think they're Nazis.
Right.
But it's totally racist. Like, all of this stuff has like a very concrete material history of like, white racism.
Right.
So, that's why I mean, the ugly question a lot of people don't want to ask is like, why was it so easy for all of these fucking hippies to get along with all these Trumpers? That's why.
Yeah.
I mean, like, that's it.
Yeah.
The core beliefs are racist.
Right. No, that's a fantastic point. I mean, yeah, I mean, a lot of it probably also has to do with the fact that, their ideologies weren't so much aligned with, leftist or progressive ideals to begin with. It was just all about like, um, free love and drugs, man. That's not necessarily a left-wing ideology,
No. And I mean, a bunch of them in the 80s became like fucking like the proto-libertarian Bitcoin assholes who like, started the internet and then got rich off of it, right?
I mean,
Like,
this is on top of that, this is like the age range of people who like what I think you're saying, but they're the ones who selfishly made as much money as possible, leaving future generations with a world where the home they bought for 60,000 that they're flipping for $1 million now, we're the ones stuck trying to afford these $1 million homes, which we don't, so we're stuck renting. Again, when they were young, their rent was what, $400 for like a 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom, something like that, and now we're paying
less.
thousands of dollars for these are the people who so there was never any ideology, a progressive ideology behind it. It was all just, they talk about millennials being like the me generation, or like look down on the Zoomer generation. It's like, you're literally describing yourselves. Like, this is now, not all obviously, but this is what that generation, the people who've done, who've made that, given us this world, they are from that generation and have that sort of that belief system.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I just, I always feel horrified when I think about, I mean, you've definitely got friends who are like a decade younger, work colleagues and stuff. I feel horrible for them. Like, I have writers who are a decade younger than me, and I just keep thinking like, oh, fuck, you're even more screwed than me.
Right. And I think at this point we're all in the same boat. I think when we're when
oh yeah
when we're all in a sinking ship, and it doesn't really matter where on the ship you are. Right. So let me ask you this, because you mentioned it earlier, and I want to make sure we get to it. You said the main reason you were there, obviously, was not so much the people on stage, but some of the figures in the right-wing movements who were there as attendees off stage. Can you tell me a little bit
Yeah.
about that?
So, whenever there's any of these kinds of events, the speakers and stuff are not totally window dressing, but they kind of are. The speeches are kind of window dressing because a lot of these people don't have very much to say. They're just going to repeat shit that they already said on their live streams. And if there's anti-fascists
They're
or
playing the hits.
journalists,
They're playing the hits.
yeah. And if there's anti-fascists that show up, journalists that show up, just random bystanders that show up, most people, and one of the right-wing live streamers provokes them into an argument. That's the real show.
Right.
Because then that person either like gets shouted at and chased out, or gets the shit beat out of them, or there's a huge fight, and some Proud Boys get to have their fourth degree or whatever. And that's the real show. And that's what these people really come to all of these rallies for. No exceptions. That's what they are here for. Because they think Antifa is going to show up and they want to fight them. They spend all of their time like demonizing trans people and demonizing queer people in general, and demonizing people of color, and finding new ways to figure out how to make the same fucking joke about how many light bulbs does it take to screw in your gender or whatever. And
Yeah.
they just want to fucking kill them. And they want to do it on camera because they know the cops are letting them get away with beating the shit out of them. So that's what I'm paying attention to most, first and foremost, is how are things laid out, who's showing up, where are people positioned, because I'm not viewing any of this as a politics reporter. I am viewing this as a conflict reporter.
Right.
Because this is a conflict zone. They're setting it up as a conflict zone and inviting people and trying to goad their perceived enemies into fighting them.
So who did you come across? If you can share some, yeah.
There was the one really fun guy who assaulted one of him and I forget the dude's name, but he was somebody's dad. The two of them together like assaulted a kind of a citizen journalist friend of mine. There's this dude, Ryan Sanchez, who's a neo-Nazi. We wrote a long-form article about profiling him. He was if you remember back during the lockdowns, there was the viral story about those monoliths that some artist installed around the world.
Oh, were those big like what was it, like those big? I don't remember what they were. It was like this big like not clay, just weird sliver of chunk of concrete or something, right?
Yeah. Well, actually, they were just plywood and tinfoil.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else then. I'm thinking of something else then.
Well, there was these kind of viral art installations. One was in the desert in Utah. One was, I think, somewhere in like Greece or something. And then one was in Atascadero, California. And this group of these neo-Nazi groypers, who weren't like regular groypers, because they included this guy, Ryan Sanchez, who used to be in RAM, Rise Above Movement, which is a neo-Nazi street fighting crew. And he was also part of Identity Europa until he got kicked out for posting anime porn in their Discord server. Yeah, no, it's really funny because
the problem is, well, all the stuff is funny. it'll never be as insane as the Matthew Heimbeck triangle, love triangle. So, getting kicked out of your
I
group
try
because
not to
of.
think about that one.
I mean, I always
God,
think about
yeah,
that. I love that one. I think about that one all the time.
yeah.
I'm the
Listen,
opposite. I
listen.
get great joy out of that one. But yeah, that is crazy about the not crazy, but that is funny about the anime thing. But of course, I always put it up.
Yeah,
I always compare it to the pinnacle of far right
listen,
comedy, and nothing beats the Matthew Heimbeck story.
listen. Damn it, you're on the East Coast. You motherfuckers have funnier Nazis than us.
It's true. It's
Let us
true,
have.
and
Let
that's
us have.
and that's lucky
Right.
for us though, because sometimes I look at what's going on in the West Coast, and I'm like, man, we're lucky. Some of the people they got there are fucking violent as hell, much more violent than. I mean, obviously they're all violent, but much more openly, outwardly, in the moments, out in the field, violent
Oh, they're
than.
fucking crazy.
Yeah, yeah,
Like they're just out to kill people.
right,
Like they're just out to beat the shit out of people. They're not goofy.
right.
Like they're I mean, I'm I mean, I'm not going to negate how fucking dangerous like
No, I think people get
anybody on
what we're
the East
saying.
Coast
They're
is.
they're all
Yeah, yeah.
dangerous, obviously, but there's something, and I've said this on the show before. There's something about the right wing gangs on the West Coast that we just don't have anything comparable here on the East Coast. Again, we have Nazis, white supremacists, far right wingers here. They have dangerous rhetoric, dangerous beliefs, violent. They want to be violent. But something about what's going on the West Coast is just it actually goes
I'll tell you what it
down
is.
on the West Coast.
I'll I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's the West Coast is a crucible for these guys in two areas. One, well, three actually. One, two, and to a lesser extent, is Orange County is kind of a neo-Nazi crucible. Like a lot of neo-Nazis pass through there, they learn their shit, they learn their techniques. Two is the entire Pacific Northwest. Like you get settled there between anywhere between Idaho and Washington and Oregon, and it's a crucible to like make you really a lot harder and a lot more effective as you know a hardcore like militia guy or a white supremacist. And probably the most insidious is San Diego area. Why? Because Tom Metzger was out of there, and he was, I mean, I'm sure you know about him. He was like probably one of the least discussed, and for smart reasons, because a lot of his stuff is like his writing is really fucking dangerous.
Right.
Still, like he just wrote a bunch of here's how to do very criminal and dangerous, scary things. But he also did really insidious and really innovative, um, uh, like, um, like media strategies. Like he ran as a Democrat. He had this thing where like he had a Chip Burley talks about it in one of his books where like he had this phone tree system for neo-Nazis to call, and it's like call this number like back in the 90s and press 1 to hear talking points about the Jews, press 2 to hear talking points about like the global homo conspiracy or like shit.
He he died a couple years ago, right?
Recent.
Yeah, in like 2020,
Yeah,
I think. Let me look that up.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
in
either
November
last
2020. Yeah.
Yeah, he was even on Twitter. Like he didn't get kicked off Twitter. He died. You know, that's how good at his fucking game this guy it was. And I don't have any proof of this, but like, you know, what else happens in San Diego is a fuck ton of oh Dina, be quiet. What happens is there's a ton of like very far right churches like Awaken Church that and other churches that like Charlie Kirk and a bunch of these people pass through, that are really influential, send people out nationwide. Then there's One American News Network. And there's also Camp Pendleton, which, there was a Klan chapter at in the 70s or 80s, I think.
Right.
And it's just a fucking crucible. Like, people think, oh, West Coast is such a, it's such a multiracial place. Well, there's sundown towns here. My great-grandfather was a shift boss at the refinery in El Segundo. El Segundo was a sundown town. Like, my dad, when he was growing up, used to hear stories from from my great grandpa's like friends saying, "Oh, well, you know why black people can swim better? They have extra bones in their feet and shit like that." In the '60s, like it's gotta
Jeez. Yeah.
fucking. It's this place. Like the West Coast is like way more on fire than people realize. It's like scratch the surface and it's the South here. So,
Right. Was there anyone else of note that we should know about who attended this thing?
let me think. Well, like there's the thing is that if you see names that keep popping up, like I don't know, say just there's always like a recurring cast in any major metropolitan area of like right-wing figures. Like we have this person called Brina McCauca who is like, one of the right-wing conspiracy theorists down here, and I think she's starting to post like anti-Semitic shit on her Instagram and stuff. But she was at the rally and like screaming about how there are vapor trails overhead, and she was saying, "Oh my God, they're all gonna give us COVID and make us take the shot," on her Instagram or something. But the more than like individual characters, because I mean, in our articles we explain the individual characters because we have to, but they always kind of follow a pattern. It's like some of them are live streamers, some of them are just people who like to come out and get in fights, some of them are just their friends who like to cheer on and watch or whatever. But every major area will have like the assholes who you can count on for showing up to these things, and they'll keep starting fights and getting in people's faces, and they'll always have a long history of violence or showing up or violent rhetoric, and then a bunch of them will show up on like Fox News or something. Like that's a bunch of Joey Gibson's crew out of Portland. I mean, excuse me, not Portland, Vancouver, Washington. Like just shows up, used to just show up on Fox News a bunch, and that's just kind of how this stuff happens. Is do you have? Oh, okay, that's just my teacher. I don't care. He's been like this since he's a puppy. He just chews on my underwear and T-shirts and stuff when he wants attention. But yeah, I'm sorry I got off track. What else you need from me?
No, that's it. I think this was an amazing breakdown, honestly, of what happened, and even beyond what I think most people realized in terms of this was not just an event where we should be listening to the people who were on stage, because as you just laid it out to us in many aspects, the people who were in the audience were much more interesting. And not just like the regular like the demographics of the regular consumer of this stuff, but also some of the names who attended for other nefarious purposes.
Yeah, I mean, like this guy Ryan Sanchez was trying to find somebody to like have all of his buddies and even random attendees do all get together and jump so that they'll have a viral video of them like attacking an Antifa person. They chose this fucking 50-year-old woman that I know because they're fucking cowards. And
man.
That's what will keep happening if these people are allowed to just show up and do violence and cops do nothing and they never get held accountable and
Right.
DAs don't prosecute them.
Right.
And, I mean, obviously I'm a journalist. I'm not here to discuss any other means, but like, if the society is supposed to be working the way it is, like, that needs to happen because these people have like committed felony assault multiple times. And I'm sorry, but that's the story. Like, all of these events are just, ways for them to push into communities and destabilize them through violence.
Right.
So that's what I want. I mean, that's what I want your viewers to take away from this.
And you've definitely laid that out, honestly. So at least I think you have, and I'm pretty sure, judging by how people are reacting in the chat, they've they've enjoyed this discussion too. Abner Häuge, editor in chief of Left Coast Right Watch, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Where can people find you online, find your work? Anything coming up you want to tease that people should check out?
Sure. Yeah. So, you can find us, find us most up to date at LCRW NEWS, LCRW News on Twitter. Our website is leftcoastrightwatch.org. That's that's where you're going to find all our articles and stuff. I think I'm going to try to have the article, my analysis about what happened on Sunday, out tomorrow. We've got just a shit ton of investigative reporting to get done pretty soon. I don't know what I can tease yet beyond just like there's going to be a lot coming. Maybe something involving Charlie Kirk and Berkeley on Wednesday. Wink.
Ooh. You've already got my attention.
Yeah, and just to tell your readers, sorry, sorry you to do this, but we basically operate on a shoestring budget. Like, I make so little doing this that I get food stamps, but I do it full time, and I struggle to pay my writers like at least $50 an article minimum. So if anybody feels generous, like, go to our Twitter page or pinned tweets or donation link, and if you feel really generous, maybe sign up for our Patreon because we could sure use the money.
No, you guys do great work. I just want to let everyone know too that I've been a follower of your site for for some time. I don't know when it I can't even recall when I first did because I've been regularly checking it out. You guys do great work. And
Thank you.
I'm honestly shocked that I was looking at my every now and then I check out see who when I'm booking for shows I'm like, oh, who haven't I had on in a while? But then I'm like, wait a minute, I saw your tweets from from at the event on Sunday, and I'm following what you're doing there, like what your updates, and I'm like, wait a minute, I've never had LCRW on the show. What's going on here? This doesn't make any sense. So I'm glad that I've righted that wrong. I hope you come back again, and I will certainly have you on again. Everyone,
Yeah, anytime you want.
Everyone, check out Abner's work, and everyone who contributes to his site. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
All right, folks. Had a bit of my computer was going a little bit slow there for a second. I was afraid we were going to freeze up, but luckily it was just my mouse took a while to not my mouse. When I clicked, took a second for it to all right, whatever. You don't need to hear about a tech issue that took 5 seconds to to fix. Folks, there's more show. Don't go anywhere. We're going to the second half of this program. I will take your calls. I will read your super chats. Excuse me. I will read your super chats. YouTube.com/Matt Binder. Leave a super chat. I will read them. Skype, open up Skype and type in Doomed Live, and you can call into this show. Just call Doomed Live. I'll log into that username in just a moment, and you'll be able to ring into this program. I take all calls, any calls. I don't care if you're calling to agree with me, calling to disagree with me. I don't care if you're a left winger. I don't care if you're a right winger. I don't care, literally whatever. Call in. We will discuss whatever you'd like. It'll be a good time. Patreon.com/Matt Binder if you can support this show. I ask for a measly $5 a month. And what do you get for that $5 a month? You get not one, not two, technically not two, not three, but 4 programs a week. You get the Doomed free show. You get the Doomed post show. You get Scam Economy. And then you get the Scam Economy Hotline live post show. 4 shows a week, $5 a month. You can give less. You can give more. I asked for 5. That's like the suggested donation. Can't do it without my patrons. Patreon.com/Matt Binder. And to thank those people who became patrons since the last episode, I'm going to name drop some of those names. Carlos, RM, Andrew S, and Comrade Sai, thank you so much for becoming patrons over this past week. It means so much. Literally cannot keep doing these programs without your support. And as you all know, I really am trying to grow this program. Really want to do more of everything. And what I'm currently going towards right now, the goal, I'm going to have to update the goal and probably do like a membership drive soon, is I want to bring people on board. I've been doing this. I've been doing Doomed solo, just me, doing everything, booking, producing, editing, podcast, video, all of it, research, everything for the past 4 years, almost more than 4 years now. Scam Economy is really starting to take off, and it's only been a few weeks. I need to get people to come on board so I can take advantage of both shows' upwards trajectory in this moment. And so if you can become a patron, it'll help me bring people on board. What kind of people am I going to bring on board? I'm going to bring people on board to the ideal scenario is bring people on board who can create short clips to get the word out about the show so people can catch what they're missing on social media, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, even YouTube, wherever, get these short clips out. I want to bring on board some people to create content for me. People in both who cover the right and people in the crypto skeptic space to create more content. Want to do more coverage of misinformation and conspiracy theories that are floating out there. More coverage of right-wing movements, more coverage of the various bullshit going on in the crypto world. And with your support, I can do that. So, Twitter, find me on Twitter at Matt Binder, doomedcast.com for the podcast version of this show, scameconomy.com for the podcast versions of Scam Economy, twitch.tv/Matt Binder. If you subscribe to Amazon Prime, you get a free Twitch Prime subscription a month. What does that mean? You can basically get for a single streamer of your choice each month, you can extract money from Amazon and give it to that streamer. No extra cost to you if you have an Amazon Prime subscription. So if you can't afford the Patreon, if you can't afford to drop super chats, if you've done everything else to support this show, get the word out, or you should continue to do that, but you subscribe to Amazon Prime, because let's face it, Amazon Prime subscription, honestly, I get it. It becomes like almost necessary if you're someone who has kids, doesn't go out much, doesn't live anywhere near a grocery store, or it's hard to get, big orders home because you don't drive, don't have a car. Amazon Prime is very convenient. It's one of, it's one of those evil necessities, I guess you can say, for some. And I get it. If you're an Amazon Prime subscriber, though, you can stick it to Jeff Bezos and support your favorite streamer. Hopefully, in this case, it's me. by connecting your Amazon Prime account to your Twitch account. You get that free Twitch Prime subscription. You have to manually give it out each month. It doesn't automatically renew, but it works like a regular Twitch subscription. And that's how you could subscribe and support me at no extra cost to you. Win, 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 win. What else? What else? I think I dropped everything. Leave reviews on Apple Podcast and Spotify if you haven't already. Just literally open up the Apple Podcast app or Spotify app. Type Doomed. Type in Scam Economy. It takes a second to just hit the star button. Like, you just hit the button. It really does help the show get noticed by people who aren't familiar with it because it drives up our rankings because that's how the algorithm works. You think I care about good reviews, bad reviews? I'm used to people trash talking me. But I'm requesting you guys do that, not to stroke my ego, but because it helps get the show more attention due to the evil algorithms that run the charts on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. That's why I've been pushing it so hard. I can see it helps because Scam Economy ranks, and Scam Economy does very good download-wise. And you gotta believe the charts have to do with it, and I see it based on where we are on the charts. There's a direct correlation to how many downloads we get. So leave those reviews if you haven't already. If you're a patron and have left a review, and you left a comment on that post about the free Scam Economy stickers, I will get them to you. I will be reaching out this week asking for your address. This gives you guys extra time, if you haven't done that already, to leave that review and drop your, drop a comment on that post in the Patreon page so I can reach out to you and get you your sticker. All right, going to the second half of the show. Skype, Doomed Live. Just search Doomed Live on your Skype. It'll be there in just a moment. If you're watching on the live stream, you could stick around. If you're a patron, obviously you could stick around. This is whether you're on Twitch live stream or YouTube live stream. You could just hang tight, sit right there. You'll be able to watch. But if you're not watching live and you're not a patron, this is where I say sayonara. I will see you all next time on Doomed. We're back. Hello, everybody. The Skype phone line is open. Doomed Live. Search Doomed Live. I will be... Oh, I forgot to put the Doomed logo up on the first half of the show in the corner. I can't believe it. God damn it. Oh, well. Lesson learned. I did that for Scam Economy this past week, too. Must have been something about that. Those little corner logos. Those little things that fucked me up this week. I don't know why. But they did. All right. Let's go to... What's this thing in? Is anyone important? All right. Let's go to the second half. Oh, second half. Let's go to the calls I'm in. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Well, hello, Mr. Bender. How are you doing?
I'm doing
it's
good.
Grim from Cyber.
Hello, Grim from Cyber. How are you doing? What would you like to talk about today, my friend?
I probably told you this story a couple of years ago, but you brought up Naomi Wolf, so I wanted to tell my Naomi Wolf story.
I would love to hear your Naomi Wolf story.
Oh yeah. So I was visiting Zuccotti Park back during Occupy, and
We might have been there at the same time. The odds are good, actually.
we'll see. So Cuomo was getting this award. Well, there was some argument in Zuccotti Park about people who wanted to be more confrontational with the cops, people who actually needed the services there were saying, please don't be more confrontational with the cops. This provides a service to us. But that's aside from the point. So someone whipped up a whole crew to go march to this event where Huffington Post was giving Cuomo an award for proving gay marriage, but he was letting a tax on millionaires lapse. So we all marched to this like sidewalk that was across from where the event was being held. And they were told as long as we stay on the far half of the sidewalk away from the street, because they're actually just basically two big city blocks that made up the side street. So it's actually pretty easy to tell where we should stand and not if we didn't want to get our asses arrested. So eventually at some point, Naomi Wolf came out and was telling people, no, come over here and stand with me and make make your protest heard right out in front, where the cops have said we will arrest you. And a couple dozen people followed her advice, and she, along with them, got arrested. Now, Matt, I'm going to surprise you. Guess who got out the same night when we all ran over to the police precinct where they were taken? Guess who got released that night? And guess who stayed?
I'm going to assume that the cops let everybody else out and then tortured and beat Naomi Wolf while she was...
Nope.
I'm being a little bit silly.
Of course
here.
not.
Yeah.
No, she and her lawyer boyfriend got out, and I don't think anyone else got released that night. They all spent the night in jail.
Right. Of course.
So that was cool. So she probably felt really good about herself for doing that.
Oh, she probably had she probably never even had thought about it once.
No. No, that's not even really why I did want to call. Speaking of things that are doomed.
What was it to talk about?
I mean, the kind of people who have been pro-Russia.
Let's do it.
One in particular that I have been kind of surprised about, but like I should have known, is Code Pink. That's just really.
Are they? I haven't been paying attention to that. Oh.
I forgot what I sent. I'll have to actually check my DMs with Zoe, because I sent her a while ago. There was some awful thing that someone at Code Pink had said. I guess I could put it in the Discord. About how it's the globalists versus the nationalists is what this like Code Pink spokesperson was saying. So it's very helpful. But also like Medea Benjamin's just been on Democracy Now! Being basically trying to put more of the blame on NATO or whatever. So it's very bizarre. Some of it is, I think there are obviously valid criticisms of NATO. It's not like that's not an issue.
Oh right, we've discussed that on this show. Though. Obviously, you could
over and over. No, but it's that there's. It's like I try to say, it's a alter imperialism. There was once a movement called the alter globalists, who were like, what if globalism was actually a good thing? And I'm trying to imagine international solidarity. So that's sort of where I came with the alter imperialists. And yeah, they think that as long as and that's sort of another reason why I think about Dugin is important, is that you see people talking about multipolarity, and they are really just taking up Dugin thought wholesale.
Right, I gotta still do that episode. I had it. I'm trying to basically also do things that are a bit more, sometimes something timely comes up, you know what I mean? And I could do an episode on Dugin pretty much anytime. He ain't going anywhere, but I wanted to hit this rally, and this wouldn't have been, after this week. I mean, the players are still obviously going to be relevant, but
again, yeah, because this is the far right.
All right.
I mean, and this is a country that, Russia, they legalized like domestic abuse some years ago. Like there's reasons why there's overlap. Like they're also their own sort of form of Christian fundamentalism, renewed patriarchy. So we saw Putin saying dumb shit about how I'm like the poor maligned J.K. Rowling. We are both the real victims in this world who are being canceled.
Right. I mean, Putin never even gave her a shout out.
Yep. Yep. And like, you know, these people are already like gonna be genocide deniers, people who denied what Assad was doing, people who, if you got them into a corner, they'd also deny the Bosnian genocide. Because again, this is all of a piece with the sort of ultra imperialism. But now there's been reports about how they're abducting Ukrainian children that will be given to Russian families. And I mean, a thing to me that strikes as very funny is that these are still the same people who would say that actually it's the liberals and the left who are promoting a culture of grooming when you're just abducting children and giving them probably to who knows who.
Right.
You know?
Yeah.
It seems like something that would ring my doorbells if I was really worried about saving the children. I mean, maybe saving them from not like being torn from their country and being forced to adopt an identity that is not their own.
Oh, I was reading that so many officials in Texas who were part of the what's the agency that the Child Protective Agency, whatever the official name is. So many officials in that agency in Texas have resigned or left the job due to that terrible law ripping trans kids away from their families. Or investigating them to rip them away from their families, that there are now not enough members of that agency to actually investigate legitimate cases of child sex abuse or just abuse in general.
That seems like one of those not a bug but a feature sort of moments, right?
Yeah, the people who talk about this nonstop are surprise, projecting, and do they really care about the kids? No, because if they did, this wouldn't have happened.
And that's why you see also stories like that guy John Rose, congressman of Tennessee. No, I mean there's hypocrisy in both parties, because it also comes down to it is that we just don't have a left in America. We just do not, and we're generations away from that even happening. It's possible there is some possibility now, but I mean with two right parties, what can we expect but to circle the drain?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, I do.
And not that I have practiced harm reduction voting my whole life.
Right. I mean, that's what I've done. Yes. I mean, I've done that.
Because it's it doesn't take very much to vote.
It's so simple. Like, you're not proving to anybody. If again, I'm not gonna. I have a belief that it's better not to go at people for that, and they'll come to it if they were going to much easier. If you just don't, I'm not. No, there are people who.
Yeah, no.
But that's also what I believe. I mean, it's so simple. I mean, obviously, in certain areas, it's not so simple in terms of lines and all the different ways they try to de-enfranchise you to make you not want to even vote. But in the aggregate, it is a very simple thing to do to basically make sure less people get hurt. And it's true, less people, as shitty as the Democrats are, and I think they deserve every criticism, and they're a reason why a lot of the shit does go down to begin with. Less people get hurt than if it was a Republican administration.
Yeah,
exactly. Or a Republican Congress.
There's less of a theater of cruelty that is used to gin up support when Democrats are in power. But we also shouldn't have any illusion that we can just elect socialism. There's a lot of different cultural shifts that would have to take place. And it's something. I mean, also if we look at history, like when there have been real socialist revolutions, is usually after great calamity, where the party of the sort of parties of order have already been exhausted.
Right.
And it seems to us the duopoly is totally happy with coasting into this bullshit. And we should be looking at things like, say, the IPCC. When you look at that worst case scenario, that is the best case scenario. Because there's just no one at the helm. There's people who are constantly jockeying to be at the helm, but they have no desire to do anything when they get there, because that's not what they're paid to do. They're paid to follow orders.
Right. No, that's yeah. Right. For a
all-
second while we were talking, I thought my nose started to bleed. It felt like it.
Okay, it's good.
But it didn't. You made
And
my
this whole-
brain. You
it
made my
does-
brain. I thought you made my brain, like have a, I don't know. I thought you gave me like you blew my brain, and so I thought you were like, I had to check for a second.
Yeah.
But no, I'm good. Yeah, I mean, absolutely.
Yeah. And the thing that actually links it back to of course, the scam economy is showmanship. And that there's showmanship for the left, there's showmanship for the right, but in the end, it's still, in its own way, it's almost apolitical because there's nothing we can do about it.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that's really scary about it.
No, absolutely.
And there's nothing we as individuals, especially, can do about the climate. The only institution we have.
Oh yes, we've talked about this on this show before too. It's at the point where, like, everyone who needed to know how serious the issue was in terms of like individuals, they know. I mean, we are, and I've discussed it even on Scam Economy, and when I'm like, this last episode of Scam Economy was on the Bitcoin greenwashing that Bitcoiners and crypto people are doing. And my mind is still blown that we've got this far, and yet here comes Bitcoin and crypto to fucking ruin it. But in the in the overview, we have convinced climate scientists, climate activists, environmentalists have convinced everyone who I think they could that this is serious and this is happening and it's real and we could do something about it and we need to do something about it. And we've seen real movement here. Like, you can just see it. Like, you can see people care about this issue.
Well, it's 'cause
what was that?
We're living it. We've seen either coastlines flooded or coastlines on fire.
Right. So people can't ignore it. But there's nothing individuals can. There's nothing individuals can do about it, though. Like,
you'll be living on gondolas if you want to stay in New York. But no, I mean, what would?
Let me fix that, though. I don't like people walking away from this, though, with a pessimistic view. There's nothing people can do about it directly in terms of like conserving energy or using your car less or whatever.
Oh no, I'm not even just saying that.
But yes, people should definitely still be active and push for the companies that can make a difference in terms of the corporations who are contributing to this climate catastrophe. They can and do make a difference if they continue to push against this. We've seen major institutions divest from fossil fuel, oil and gas industries, and that is super important. So I don't want to accidentally downplay the role that we play.
That's not where I'm going with this anyway.
Right.
My point is just that, like, the only institution we're likely to turn to get us out, not get us out, but to manage to get as many people to survive what's going to come, is the Army Corps of Engineers. No one else is going to as rapidly be able to deal with the kind of catastrophes we're going to be facing. Private businesses just do not have the manpower or interest in doing this.
Right.
So things that we should really be doing are also very basic things about learning learning first aid, organizing in your community, very basic things that people would say anyway. And don't think that somehow there's going to be a socialist party that we're all going to be able to vote into.
Right.
Um,
Right. I mean, it's looking grim for that scenario, for that as like I don't think people are going to realize very soon that we were truly spoiled to
yeah,
have Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020.
in both good and negative ways too.
Yeah.
Because so like yes, it seemed like that was the best chance we were ever going to get, but also realizing if that's the best chance we're going to get, we really are a lot further from power than we think.
Well, we are now. Yes, I think in 2016 and 2020 we weren't. I think he was that strong of a candidate, and he built a movement that strong. And I do think his movement is still pretty strong in terms of still getting people elected. In local races, statewide races, and even Congress, like U.S. Congress. I don't think we have anyone on a level. When I say Congress, I should say more specifically the House. I don't know if we have anyone on the level of hopefully Fetterman gets, although he's not perfect or, he's got his issues too. But
that's the devil's bark in there, and that's that we keep having to make. And I think as a matter of again,
but in terms of like if Fetterman over the other candidates, easy peasy. I'm not even a question. So anyone who wants to take that as me, I hope Fetterman wins the primary. I hope he wins the general.
Sure, but I'm just saying like we shouldn't also keep our eyes off of the fact that of the reality of how far right this country is, and that it keeps ratcheting further and further, and it doesn't quite it hasn't snapped back. And that is very concerning. So we just keep losing ground and keep losing ground. And I guess it's very nice to have a Supreme Court justice. It'd be great if Clarence would shuffle off that mortal coil of his. It would still be one off on being the majority, but yeah, I think the only optimism, unfortunately, is in whether whether catastrophe really will provoke people to either band together or will it force people to further tear each other apart.
Oh, yeah, the latter. The latter. I said early on during the pandemic in 2020 that I was like literally like the first couple of weeks, the first handful of weeks, I said I was surprised how much people came together to actually stay home. And, it was a very small contingent that wasn't doing that. But that lasted for just a few weeks. It took less than a month for those anti-lockdown protests in April to come out, and then we all know where this all went. People are tearing each other apart already over COVID, vaccines, masks. Just wearing a fucking mask became too much for people to do. So I think, to be a pessimist now, I think we would, if a full blown catastrophe where like staying home wasn't the safe thing to do, where like there was a complete meltdown where people had to like flee their homes, like if a climate catastrophe happened or something like that.
Exactly.
I think people
like
would go fucking insane. Sadly, I think people you would see the absolute. If you think you saw the worst of people now, I think you'd see the absolute worst of them. If that happened, yeah. So yeah, that's unfortunately what I think. I mean, people do show their best when there's like we've seen people at their best when there's some sort of tragedy, but those tragedies are usually like
they say that, but like that the history doesn't totally bear it out.
Yeah.
But again,
I mean, what I'm saying is I have seen people like when there's a shooting, people do help each other out and try to save people and to try to stop the shooter, and unfortunately sometimes it ends up not working out for them in terms of like they lose their lives when they could have not. Yeah, but that's also like a momentary thing. If we're looking at like a much broader catastrophe, something that's not just like an in the moment thing where like, for example, something like a climate catastrophe where people have to flee, I think we
Yeah.
would unfortunately see people do some not great things.
Oh no, it would be its own sort of micro catastrophe, and that's kind of what we saw out on the West Coast when that was ablaze and people refusing to leave until the last second, or people now still that contrarian or extremist impulse to just say that whatever is, I don't know if it's liberal or left with these people, but so I guess for them it starts out as liberal, but it winds up being things that are left, and they start yelling about the ultra left and shit like that.
All right, Grim. Thank you for the
Yeah,
call. I want to make sure there's enough time for a few more of the callers.
absolutely.
Have a great night, my friend. Thank you for the call. It was a pleasure to discuss with you as usual. Always great topics, always great points. Way to bring the show down too, by the way. Thank you.
It's called Doomed for a reason, right?
It is, yes, it is.
All right, it's been a pleasure, Matt. Take care.
You're at the right place. You're in the right place. I'll tell you that. Take care, my friend.
Bye.
Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, Matt, can you hear me?
I can. Hey, who is this? Where you calling from?
This is Carl from Minnesota.
Hey, Carl from Minnesota. Can I pull you up on the feed?
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Are you the one who the Carl from Minnesota who sometimes calls into scam economy to?
Sorry, my Wi-Fi cut out. What did
right.
you just say?
Are you the Carl from Minnesota who sometimes calls into scam economy to talk Bitcoin?
Yes, sir. The very same.
You have a new you're in a new spot, a new area. Did you move? Are you in a new part of your home? Did you? What's going on?
No, I was just using a virtual background before, so I was in the same spot.
Oh, what? You were using a virtual background before, and this is your usual? Is this a real background?
Yeah.
Is this your real background?
Well, I can throw on the Bitcoin background if you want me to, but
I'm gonna tell you that you have a very nice home. If this is not a virtual background.
no, this is all real. I've got some junk over here that's not supposed to be seen, so
It is a very.
I'm trying to make it look okay.
Very nice. So what would you like to talk about?
Bitcoin.
Oh, you're here to talk about Bitcoin.
Of course.
This isn't the scam economy live stream. This is a different one. But I'm always open to talking crypto. So what would you like to talk about?
I know. I just heard your comment with the last caller about Bitcoin going green, and I think the last episode you did, or the last article you covered, was a little bit misleading, a little bit disingenuous.
Okay, what? How so?
Talking about how capturing flared gas is a false solution.
Right.
Okay, and can you think of my argument as to why it's not a false solution?
I'm assuming because you're going to say that it's not being flared because it's going to power the Bitcoin mines.
No, I mean flared gas is a problem. I mean, methane is worse for the environment than CO2. Would you agree with that?
Oh yes, that was this. We discussed that. We discussed how obviously it's better than it being flared, but at the same time, this is a decision that ExxonMobil is obviously making when they could just capture this gas and give it to or use it for better purposes, more necessary purposes.
Yeah. I mean, the thing is there's like zero demand for those other type of purposes in these remote locations. So you either need to build infrastructure like gas pipelines, which no one is advocating for on the left, that's for sure.
Sure.
Or you just let it go to waste.
I mean, but they're getting it to the Bitcoin miners, right?
Yeah, which is great. It's first of all
And
they're capturing methane.
They didn't build any new infrastructure to do that, right? They didn't build any new pipelines, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because the Bitcoin is a perfectly transportable payoff for the energy. Capturing that gas and trying to transport it elsewhere is so inefficient, so costly, and that's why.
But
we have
why is
problems in
it
these
only
remote
not
locations.
why is it only beneficial and not costly to transport it to the Bitcoin miners and not anybody else? That's what that's what doesn't make sense to me. Like what is
What do you mean transport it to the Bitcoin miners?
you're saying that I mean on the episode Leanna explained how they basically take these and they put it into like cargo things and they basically get it to the Bitcoin mines, right? The Bitcoin miners, I should say.
Or they just set up mining rigs right at these flared gas plants, and so they don't have to pipe the flared gas more than a few hundred feet to do it.
Okay, so then you have ExxonMobil getting into the Bitcoin mining industry. I mean, that doesn't sound very good, no? Because they're going to. It gives them.
It
It gives
seems
them.
totally neutral.
No, but it doesn't, because if they find that this is a new profitable method to continue to frack and to continue to extract these gases from the
It's not very
ground,
profitable
I mean, then why are they doing it?
because they have excess gas that they would flare otherwise. So, okay, they have some source of energy. They can't do anything else with it and to combat methane, there's okay, we can run this through, some simple energy transfer to our Bitcoin mining rigs. We can take that waste gas and make some profit from it. It's not going to be, they're not taking all of their natural gas plants and saying we're just going to mine
Well,
Bitcoin.
of course, because they make more money. Yeah, but I mean, they're not doing it because they care about the environment. There's a reason they're doing it. It's because it's become there's a profit to be made there. Like, why do they like ExxonMobil doesn't care about the environment?
Yeah, but they don't have to care. The incentive is perfect. It makes them as if they care.
So you're telling me that the only thing that can be powered by this gas, this excess gas, is Bitcoin mines. There's no other use for this.
No, absolutely not. I'm definitely not claiming that. But who else is lining up to do it? And what other industry can take stranded, curtailed, flared natural gas and make it useful?
I mean, that's because these Bitcoin miners are looking to get any sort of press for their crypto. I mean, that's basically what's happening here.
To get press?
To get PR, they're basking in this. You got Bitcoiners. You got Bitcoiners
I don't
talking
think they care about PRs, making sure they save their bottom line, Matt.
Dude, you got Bitcoiners saying how Bitcoin is going to literally save the world from climate change. You don't think they love this shit? You don't think this is part of it? You don't think Bitcoin being promoted as a solution to climate catastrophe is part of the thought process that goes into them doing this? I mean, this is...
I think some people, for sure. I think people who don't understand supply and demand in energy markets for sure have no idea how Bitcoin mining is going to help. But you have to expend energy in order to solve a lot of the problems we're facing. So Bitcoin mining isn't going to solve climate change. It's going to incentivize people like Exxon to, even though they're making a profit, to capture methane, produce a less harmful CO2. It's bringing all of this demand side and supply side control to teetering energy markets that eventually reduces prices, reduces volatility, keeps grid stable. Like, people who don't understand energy markets aren't going to understand any of this, but it's actually incredibly helpful to people to have such consistent or have machines like mining rigs that can power on and off in a moment's notice to fix these demand and supply problems.
I mean, you just said there's an incentive here, and there obviously is. And I mean, you don't think that's going to incentivize them to continue doing what they're doing. I mean, there's not going to be any push. If this turns out to be just as lucrative as, as a nice little cherry on top of what they currently do, what is the incentive then to not do it? I mean, I think there should be a push to be getting away from all this, and here we have a new model to use this, these natural resources for even more. I mean, it seems counterintuitive if you ask me.
Yeah. Okay. So, are you like in favor of electric cars? Do you think we should be pushing that way?
I think we should be pushing towards more public transportation. That's what I think. And then obviously
Okay. Yeah.
Electric cars
Agreed.
obviously become part of that. But
Yeah, I
numero
agree with
uno
that.
is less people on the road, and less travel in terms of commutes. Travel should be something people do to enjoy and not to get to work and waste tons of energy every day
Sure.
just to get to their
So,
job.
so more efficient
Yes,
allocation of energy, right?
absolutely.
And you do that through, companies creating new batteries, creating new waste transport energy, right? Like you want companies to innovate, right?
Sure. I mean, I would prefer that, that the government gets involved with some of these things and make sure that this is where we're going to disagree, obviously. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't think that, I wonder how much more would energy efficient cars be on the road if the main manufacturer of them, Tesla, wasn't charging an arm and a leg for them. We don't need giant TV screens and all the other unnecessary perks of a Tesla. Get people a cheap battery powered car out there. Get people, that's what we need. Yet, Elon Musk
I mean, part of the appeal of Tesla is that it's cool, which incentivizes people to, go electric in the first place. Like that's sort of a brilliant marketing. Like,
I mean,
let's make this car super cool and also electric.
I mean, it costs a lot of money and it's very dangerous for some of the stuff they're putting out there.
Even the lowest end Tesla costs what, $27K? Like that's not outrageous for a car.
I mean, it's out of reach for a lot of people. I mean, we could be talking like what's like one of the cheapest models of cars. It's like I can't remember the name, but it's like I think like 10K, 15K or something like that. I mean, maybe I'm even off. I'm not a car person.
I mean, we're getting off the topic here, but like I think you and I both agree, like good public transportation, more electric cars, fewer gas guzzlers, more innovation around battery tech. Those are good things, right?
Sure.
And in order to have those things, we still have to spend energy. We can't just say, all right, everyone dial it back, 50%, we have to spend energy in order to progress, right?
Well, we have to at the same time be moving to lessen the energy that's being spent, and that's not what's happening. Like we're not doing that.
Okay, I mean that's an opinion. Like we can definitely cut back on our energy, and if everyone didn't use their computers for nearly as much time, if we cut computer use in half, we cut dryers in half.
Computers use
TV,
very little. Computers use very little. Like a lot of these items you're talking about now are very energy efficient. I mean, I could look up like.
And cars are like people rip on electric cars, like and Tesla especially, that they used other forms of energy to burn to power these charging stations, right? So you end up just using whatever resource you're using before.
I think it's obviously electric cars are obviously better, but I also think these companies flaunt statistics that aren't completely accurate in terms of like. I mean, let's put it this way. I mentioned this stat on the last episode of Scam Economy, which I'm sure you didn't like, but Tesla's investment into Bitcoin is basically the equivalent of putting something like 1.8 million of the gas guzzling cars they don't want out there on the road. I mean, that seems counterintuitive of Tesla's whole image. And this is one of their investments. I mean, I'm sure you disagree that Bitcoin, but I mean that's the facts.
That Tesla doesn't want as many cars, or they want more cars?
Tesla's Bitcoin investment. They have something like 1.5 million. I can't remember how much exactly, but their
Mhm.
Bitcoin investment is the equivalent of 1.8 million non-electric cars being on the road.
Okay. Is there a point there?
Yes. What is Tesla doing investing in Bitcoin if there's that energy issue there? I mean, it defeats the purpose of what they're promoting their product as. It'd be like, I don't know, like,
So you're saying them buying Bitcoin is equivalent to the energy consumption of those cars, or I'm having trouble following you here.
no, that, I mean, I could pull up the stat here if you want me to.
No, I understand the stat. I don't understand the point of bringing up the stat.
Because this is a company that claims to be green. This is a company claims to be energy efficient, to be saving the world from these gas-guzzling vehicles. And here they
I
are.
don't know
Their
if
investment's the equivalent of putting 1.8 million of these gas-guzzling vehicles on the road.
I don't know if Tesla's
Tesla, here,
claiming
this is
to
from,
be
this is
saving
from,
the world.
this
I
is
think
from,
they're aiming to be
this is,
developing technology
this is
that
from
is going to
what,
help.
this is from,
Okay, yeah, go.
this is from Wired.
Yeah.
Tesla's Bitcoin investment has the same carbon footprint as 1.8 million gas guzzling cars. I mean, there you go.
Okay.
I mean,
On
how
a
do
daily
you?
basis, on a yearly basis, on a
I mean, they invested in Bitcoin. I'm guessing just that one-time purchase of their Bitcoin is equivalent to. Here you go. When you scale, okay, 1.1 billion investment in Bitcoin would produce the same carbon emissions as 1.2 million petrol or diesel cars over the course of a year. When you scale that calculation to 1.5 billion, it turns out that Tesla's 1.5 billion investment in Bitcoin is equivalent to a year's worth of carbon emissions from a whopping 1.8 million cars. I mean, so yes, their one-time investment to purchase those Bitcoin, that $1.5 billion worth of Bitcoin, is equivalent to a year's worth of carbon emissions from 1.8 million cars. I mean, I don't understand how that would not be a point to make from a company that claims to be not doing that. I mean, they don't sell anywhere near 1.8 million cars a year. So if you take how many cars they sell a year and equate that to that 1.8 million cars worth of emission, I mean, really selling Teslas don't do anything for the environment. If you just calculate their Bitcoin investment.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the statistic that buying that much Bitcoin produces that much CO2, like those aren't even related. Like, do you understand that Bitcoin energy is not on a per transaction basis or on a per Bitcoin basis?
Well, every time there's a transaction being added to the blockchain, that's energy being used. Every time the
Yeah,
miners
but
need to do some sort of
it has nothing to do with number of transactions.
well, each explain that.
Okay, so when you expend energy, you're mining transaction into a block.
Right.
That could be one transaction. That could be 3,000 transactions. The different number of transactions in a block has no bearing on the cost to mine that block, or the emissions to mine that block. Do you understand that part?
Right.
Yeah. So it's like saying for every 10 ice cream cones sold, there's a murder. Like, yes, they're correlated, but they're not directly related.
No, they are, because obviously number of transactions that go on the blockchain do. I mean, that's how they calculate the energy being expended. It's not like they're saying like the second this transaction, like this one transaction equals this, but when you combine them all together, you could do the math to say, okay, each of these transactions is the equivalent to such and such kilowatt hours.
Okay, so 10 years ago, how much was each transaction for Bitcoin?
I would have to
What was the
find.
cost?
I would have to find the stats for that.
What were the CO2 emissions?
I would have to find. I'm
It was run- it was
assuming
run- it was
obviously
run
it's
on a
less though.
laptop.
I'm
You could
assuming
run
it's
it on a
less.
laptop. So
I'm assuming Bitcoin's actually gotten less energy efficient over the past year. I talked about that on the last episode too. How Bitcoin was actually. I don't want to use this word because it makes it sound like they were green, but Bitcoin was actually greener in 2020 than they were in 2021. The Bitcoin mining institutions decided to throw all that shit to the wayside when they realized just how much more money they could make by not being green.
yeah, okay. Do you know how much of the grid is renewable energy, or how much of hash rate is renewable energy? How much of it is curtailed? It's
Not enough.
energy that would otherwise be wasted.
Not enough.
Man,
I mean,
say
the whole
not
thing.
enough.
But the whole
If
thing's
it's at
a waste.
80%, you'd still say not enough.
Because the whole thing's a waste. It's pointless. It's pointless
Your
expenditure
goalposts
of
are just
energy.
constantly moving. That's the problem.
But this is something that serious climate scientists say. That I mean, I talked about this on the episode too. Liana said that the climate scientists she spoke to, their viewpoint is any sort of renewable energy that goes into Bitcoin mining should be spent.
What if
elsewhere.
it's stranded? What if no one's willing to use it? Can it be used for Bitcoin mining then?
People, what do you mean no one? People would of course be willing. Once everything is using renewable energy, then
Okay,
I guess Bitcoin mining could use that.
In a remote place in Canada where it's just, plains, there's natural gas. No one is lining up to say, hey, can we have your extra energy? No one is doing that. So these companies that are using Bitcoin miners to capitalize on this wasted energy, is that not okay now? That's ridiculous.
I mean, it's not that no one's asking for it. It's that the opportunity is not presented for them. I mean, there's real problems in terms of how some of the oil and gas industry has a stranglehold over everything we do. Like, in this in a lot of parts of the country. I mean, I'm pretty sure in New York City, I haven't looked into this, but in New York City, you have to have an energy account with Con Edison. You have to get your energy from Con Edison. If you go ahead and get your own solar panels, you still have to pay Con Edison. That's because the oil and gas industry have a stranglehold on the laws in this country. I mean, that's a real problem without a doubt. That has to be addressed because everyone should be using renewable energy.
Okay, so let's say there's a stream in Canada that no one's using. Can I go up and set up a wheel and mine Bitcoin there? Or are you gonna say not until everyone has renewable energy can you mine Bitcoin?
I mean, if you are creating the ability to do that, why wouldn't you offer that to something that's more practical and more like you're literally just build a little shack and just have this little DIY like thing set up to mine your Bitcoin?
Yeah.
I mean, if you have no ability to do anything more than that, then I mean, I don't agree with it, but there's no
you
harm there,
I guess. How insane that is to say you wouldn't want someone to do that it's unethical for them to do that.
I mean, I don't think they should be doing it to begin with, but I mean,
that's fine. Well, under the
but again, the mining companies we're talking about aren't like, little Bitcoin maxi over here, actually building this shack. We're talking about big companies that actually invest millions upon millions of dollars into doing this. So, I mean, that money and that, that setup could be going towards something more necessary, quite frankly. I mean, obviously it's not, but that's not my choice.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, we just have fundamentally different views. I think you have to use energy in order to innovate and to.
Well, when you say innovate, what is innovation? To me, innovation isn't mining for digital currency that's simply just an investment to watch number go up. I don't view that as innovation. What's being done?
No, I'm not saying that is innovation. I'm saying any time, you have, let's say in your ideal scenario, a government agency says, all right, we're going to pour $20 million into making better batteries, right? It costs more than $20 million. It costs energy, it costs resources, right?
Right. But you use this example of like, you know, the little DIY guy just only having the capability to set up this little rig to mine for Bitcoin. But that's not the scenario that's going on. Like, your hypothetical is not what's going on. What's really going on are these mining companies that are literally, some of them are traded on the stock market because they make millions and millions and millions of dollars. They're setting these rigs up, and they have the infrastructure that's the equivalent to infrastructure that could be used to get this renewable energy, if they're even using it, to more beneficial, more necessity type things, like to power people's homes and power, commonalities that the public uses. I mean, that's the point I'm making. Like, in your hypothetical, if there were just a bunch of like hippies out there mining Bitcoin in their little shacks next to a stream.
That's not my example. That's not why I brought that example up. My example was saying, you were saying, I don't want Bitcoin to be used for any, or Bitcoin mining to use any renewable energy because we could use it elsewhere. And I said that was an absurd statement because you'd have to stop people from doing what they wanted to mine Bitcoin, even if it was free, stranded, curtailed energy.
I mean, if you're asking me, do I prefer them using renewable over, natural gas, oil, and of course, yes, If that's the choice, then obviously yes. They're not, though. They're not, like I said. They're doing even less and less renewables, because they don't care about that. They really don't. For the most part, it's just, you disagreed with me, but really is, at the end of the day, a PR move from them. They get to say that Bitcoin is saving the environment because Bitcoin gets bad press and they don't like it. Bitcoin's got to be perfect for them. And that's why when the news dropped that Exxon was siphoning this excess gas to them, they jumped on saying, I mean, maybe you're not saying it, and I appreciate you not saying this because this is truly absurd, but there are a lot of Bitcoiners out there who are literally saying not only is Bitcoin green, but Bitcoin is literally going to stop climate change and save the world. And I mean, that's just ridiculous.
Okay. I mean, yeah, there's a little bit of hyperbole on there.
A little bit.
I think that Bitcoin creates a super powerful incentive structure that incentivizes better energy, better innovation, use of stranded and curtailed energy. I think you should read about Margot Pies. I know I sent you a Twitter DM of her, or
I think I remember
Nick
that. Yeah.
Stuff, because the climate scientist that your last interviewer brought up, I think, is just half of the story. I think there are a lot of qualified
I'm sure there are,
people.
but what I've noticed is that a lot of the climate scientists who are against this stuff are climate scientists first, and a lot of climate scientists that are for this.
And so
this
is this
stuff,
person.
A lot of these people, I mean, I don't know about this person specifically.
Okay,
I'm not speaking to them,
you
but
can say that, but you have no idea who they are.
I'm not talking about yours specifically, but there were a few progressive climate activists who were sent my way by some other crypto people who listened to that episode. And when I go to their bio, the first thing in their bio isn't climate scientist or climate activist. The first thing in their bio is cryptocurrency, Bitcoin, or whatever.
So it's a bio.
And then some.
Who cares? What do they spend 80 hours a week on, or 40 hours a week on?
Well, not climate scientists, climate science, and not climate activism, because that's not the main thing they talk about. I mean, when I say bio, I'm not just talking about like a Twitter bio. I mean, literally, the focus of their work is not climate first. The focus of their work is crypto or Bitcoin, and they'll just happen to be, in those worlds, someone who talks about climate more so than the others. But this has been a good call. Always appreciate when you call in. You know I enjoy the calls from the pro-crypto people. And I know you don't like me calling you a pro-crypto person because you're a Bitcoin guy. I appreciate the call from the Bitcoin guys, too.
Thank you.
Have a great night, buddy. Always a pleasure. Feel free to call in anytime.
One more thing.
Sure.
I would just check your audience every once in a while. I know the last caller had called in about turning Bitcoiners into quote unquote meat jerky, and electrocuting them. So
He was being
maybe a little bit too far there. Like last I called in, I got a bunch of interesting, not quite threats from your chat, but some pretty colorful language. So
right.
you
Well, I
might
mean,
want to reel that in.
you can't control the audience. You know,
I mean, it's your show. You got to moderate, bro.
I mean, I got moderators in there, but I have a very open moderation policy. I let them know that I let a lot fly. And honestly, the people who usually complain about being moderated aren't people worried, are the opposite of my audience. The people I hear from my audience that you should really let these right wingers stop saying some of this stuff in here. And I say, as long as they're not, spamming the chat or dropping like literal slurs, I'm fine with it because I don't want to drive people away. I'm open to the discourse. The previous caller was obviously joking. No one's gonna turn you into beef jerky.
Yeah, I think if it was coming from someone on the right, you would be a lot less charitable about whether they were joking. So
I mean,
but that's fine. That's fine. I'm not here to police.
If right wingers said that they wanted to do this, they wanted to murder all people of a specific race, I would obviously not be into that. If a right winger was joking about how, I don't know, anyone who believes Medicare for all should get cancer, that's also not the same. These are not equivalent things. But I understand your concern. Everyone, whether you're on the left or the right, whoever's listening to my show, let's all be a little bit nicer to each other.
Because then you can actually have fun, productive discussions. And
when you call in, I don't.
No one has to be butthurt at the end of the day.
Listen,
so thank you.
At the end of it, when you call in, you don't. It's not like you tell me something pro Bitcoin and I say to you, you know what, buddy, the electric chair for you. That's not me.
I appreciate that.
Have a great night.
Take care, Matt.
Bye. Listen, you all know me. I'm actually, we got another caller here. Let's do this call. Hey, what's your name? Where you calling from?
Hey, it is Kowalski from Nebraska.
Hey, Kowalski. How are you doing?
Not too bad. I'll keep this brief, but just to your last caller. So with a lot of that fracking excess gas, that's actually something that a lot of people have been talking about in this area of the country for like the last 10, 15 years. Currently in the works, there are plans to move fertilizer production plants there to get the cheap excess energy. That fertilizer can be used for a practical, reasons of growing crops, which, we need. And there's also plans to build power stations, big electrical lines in order to move that power towards the Great Lakes regions, possibly the Denver metropolitan area and other large places. So the use of this for Bitcoin is nothing more than a PR stunt. Just to think that nobody has been looking at essentially free energy and thinking of ways to utilize it is quite honestly pretty childish.
I mean, it's simply it's funny because they're listening to what ExxonMobil is saying. Like literally, we are reading Exxon press releases about this. This is where it's all coming from. This is where it's coming from. It's either coming from the Exxon side or the huge Bitcoin mining op. Like I'm not talking about like he was saying like someone setting up. I know he said he didn't say this, but that's the only scenario because there are no one who is using this excess gas from Exxon is some small Bitcoin mining operation as to the extent those even exist in any sort of fashion that even makes them more than a blip on the radar. The people who are teaming up with Exxon are huge multi-million dollar, if not tens or hundreds of million dollar worth Bitcoin mining companies who are funded by VC firms or have funding from even the old school financial institutions. We're talking giant, huge companies like Exxon working with upcoming big companies like these Bitcoin mining companies.
Yeah, I would also just wanted to point out to his hypothetical of going up into the wilderness and damming off a creek and getting power to do it that way. One, you're going to have to build a lot of infrastructure to get your shack to this remote location. That's going to involve building roads, bringing in gravel, possibly crossing streams. You're then going to have to work with the Game and Parks or whatever the equivalent is in Canada to see if you can even permit to destroy a natural habitat in order to dam the river or stream or whatever you want to use the power for. And it probably wouldn't be worth your time. And half of the year, it's going to be a frozen tundra that you'll have to leave or, become like a bear. So
Yeah. Right. I mean,
also, in those where the gas flares are at, I believe the male to female ratio in those places is like something like 40-1. So good luck having a good social life in that area to the Bitcoin miners.
well, I mean, do you think they're worried about social life?
You got me there. My God, I try to see the best in people,
I'm not,
but
I
this
was
is
saying,
doomed.
I'm not talking about the previous guest. Like I said, I really do respect people. I say this the same about right wingers. Like, as shitty as I think Michael Tracy's worldview is, I think he is better than others for reaching out and engaging with me that time we had that debate. Same for anyone who does that, whether they're Bitcoiners, crypto people, right wingers, whatever. I think that is an important aspect to be able to defend what you believe and actually let your listeners get challenged. I think that to me, maybe not for others, but to me, that does put you up a notch in my book. So I'm not talking about the previous caller, but for the most part, a lot of these crypto people aren't really worried about that.
Yeah, I would say the previous caller's heart's in the right place, though. I don't personally understand the purpose of Bitcoin yet. Like, I don't know where, like, I can't just use my Visa and it's, going to be safer. It's going to be just as, if not, it's definitely more secure. So, I mean, like, yeah, I'm gonna stick with my currency that's backed by the global naval superpower. So,
Right. I mean, that's not even like the worry for me anymore. Like, this stuff's obviously not going to replace the U.S. dollar. Like, that whole thing, the idea that it'd be a legit currency is like, I mean, obviously it could happen down the road, but right now my biggest concern is how it is integrating into everything, which means people are going to feel like they need to invest in it because obviously they don't want to miss out. And then when this all tanks, because it's going to, and you're seeing, I don't know what insider information they have, but you see even some of these owners of these giant crypto exchanges tweet these really subtle type things about how I forgot the guy who runs Binance literally said like when the Titanic sinks, it takes down the floaters with them, but the ones that come back from under the water will be untethered. And he's clearly making some sort of mention about Tether, the stable coin that's basically propping up the entire crypto market via how much it's invested into Bitcoin. And when you read that very vague, cryptic message from him, it reads a lot to me like he has some sort of inside information about how the whole market's going to tank. And basically anything that's not connected to the hip with Tether is going to resurface and start anew. That's what I took from it.
we're all going to make it to the
Yes.
bottom of the ocean.
Yes, that's the thing though about his little proclamation there. The Titanic sinks, all the floaters go down with it, but then I guess they get buoyed back up. But what is the point of those floater devices, right? The floaters, the little boats. What's the point of them? For people to be on them to live, right? So basically, everyone's gonna sink and die, but the fucking boat will come. Some of the boats will come back up at the end, right? I mean, that's that's how you really should take that analogy.
Yeah, clearly I am not as deep into the wilderness as some people who, like I'm glad you have sacrificed yourself for the rest of us for all of this, but I will let you get back to some other callers. Thanks for the call.
Always a pleasure, Kowalski. Take care.
Bye.
There was someone just hung up. If you'd like to call back in, I'll take one, maybe two more calls. We'll see. I had a few. Excuse me. I had a few clips I wanted to talk about. But oh, here we go. Let me take this call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Matt, Zach from East Tennessee. What's up, brother?
Hey, Zach, how are you? I could put you on the feed, right?
Yeah.
How are you doing? What was it to talk about?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you just fine. What would you like to talk about?
All right. Well, off that anti-flag shirt you've got on, that rock band. Well, here in East Tennessee, son, we stand for the flag and kneel for the cross.
Right.
That's
Right.
what they say. That's what they say around here. I mean, I've got a neighbor about 5 houses down from me. I mean, we are 100% Christian in this area, and people still are so aggrieved that there is a guy that has a sign in his yard with a picture of the cross that if this if my symbol um, offends you, look away. And that is like the attitude and the amount of grievance that these folks are on right here.
Right.
But like that, I do like that anti-flag shirt. I got my silver shirt on because they just put out a dope album. I wanted to share with you on the latest Tennessee fuckery about transgender assault on transgender. Right?
Let's do it. Let's talk. What's going on in Tennessee?
This will be really quick. Okay.
Is there a new law to make it so underage girls have to marry Republican Tennessee politicians?
Well, that looks more like if you want that scholarship money, man, you gotta marry.
I still can't believe that shit. It's still unbelievable to me.
I didn't know that, and that is. In every high school, there's kind of that creepy teacher who, starts hollering at a girl when they're.
She was my teacher.
I know, but
he should have any access to these kids. He shouldn't have access to these kids. That's the thing.
It was insane, and since we started, we talked about that like maybe last week. That story blew up in the next couple of days. It was on Chris Hayes. It's been on just about. It's been all over the place. So once again, not to like blow smoke, but you were kind of ahead on that one. But
thanks to you as well. Thanks to you as well.
Well, I got a report from the state with some of the worst. So here is a bill. It's a transgender penalty bill. Sorry, I'm adjusting my earpiece. It's a transgender penalty bill. It's going to the governor's desk, Bill Lee, really exciting guy. And what it's going to do is it will withhold a portion of state funds from local school districts that fail to determine a student's gender for participation in middle or high school sports. Now, hold on. If a birth certificate, they must prove their sex matches that listed on the student's original birth certificate. So, you know how bills get nicknames like, AC Obamacare, the stop and frisk. I'm going to call this a check your junk bill because that's what that is. How else are they going to do this?
Right. Yeah, it is.
This is from my local paper. I mean, this is the Johnson City Press. And how else are they going to kind of make these assessments under the guise of protecting women's sports, which we know right-wingers don't give a crap about women's sports. Have you ever heard a right-winger, or maybe not even just right-winger, but have you ever heard guys deride the WNBA and the types of slurs they use towards the?
Oh yes, it's not everyone obviously, but yeah, especially of course, especially the party of masculinity, the right. I mean, of course, yes.
Yeah, this whole thing, it's like we're going to protect women's sports. Meanwhile, most of these guys that are writing these bills would not go to. Like I went to the University of Tennessee, so let's say the Lady Vols. When I was in school there in the late '90s, they were winning national championship after national championship, and they still got disrespected by guys that, men, guys, they would call them a slur, a common slur at the time
Right.
for maybe like gay women. And so this whole, the, the the disingenuity, disingenuousness of
Right.
these bills and what they're supposed to protect. I think that maybe I don't know. These are really bumming me out,
No.
and I
Yeah.
think as yeah, and then I think I was questioning what the purpose of the marriage bill was last week. I asked you, I was like, I wonder what this is all about. And then I think it's because the religious right wants to go after Obergefell, and so they're trying to create this new special law for. This is a different issue than the transgender, but I think that's what the age marriage and age and that whole other lane. I don't know. Have you heard anything to that effect?
No, I haven't.
Does that make sense? Like that, under normal circumstances, now that we have legalized same-sex marriage, it seems like the right is going to try to create some type of exemption, or I don't know, maybe just some other avenue for normalizing marriage, and maybe that's what that other thing is about.
Yeah. I
But
mean.
this, go
Yeah.
ahead.
I mean. There. This recent push from them is definitely not out of the blue, but it's also like interesting to see what the end game is going to be for them. Like in 2022, what is their end game here? They want to obviously deny trans people from existing. They want to also,
Mhm.
at this point, deny lesbians, gays, anyone who is not, cis,
Straight. Yeah,
straight.
cis
Yep.
het.
Um,
Yeah.
they want to deny them. Furthermore, they're going even further than that, and basically anyone who even allies with them is an enemy. They're groomers. Anyone
Yeah.
who teaches children about their bodies, not even like sexual, like not even like sex education, like literally just teaching kids in school that they have a penis or a vagina
Yeah,
is
right.
considered grooming or pedophilia to them. So there goes those people. There goes education. I mean, I don't know how they expect kids to know when they are being abused if they don't even know that type of stuff. Like if they don't know it's wrong for someone to touch them because they don't know what a penis or a vagina is and that they have one or the other.
Right.
How are they supposed to know when they're abused? I mean, maybe that's
You know,
part of that. Maybe that's part of what they want too.
it is. I think it's all in the vein to here in Tennessee, especially. We have this attempt at an end run around public schooling by this group called, I think it's called Hillsdale, and it has funding and it has a lot of resources from the governors. It's a religious organization. It's kind of like charter. It's kind of like those religious charter schools. I think that this is a real, and you might see a real fight here in Tennessee against public schools, and that's what scares me. I learned all of my values kind of in for equality and just
Well, that's
diversity,
what you just said. You said you learned about all that in public school, right?
hmm
That is
Sarah
exactly
McCormick.
that's exactly what they don't like. You just nailed. I mean,
Yeah,
that's exactly what bothers them. Like they want to destroy. I mean, that's I didn't mention that because I thought I wasn't thinking that line of thought here, but that's obviously one of their end games too: is destroy public education. They do not want.
yeah,
They don't want that. Children should be going to like fucking religious institutions. They should be learning about everything from their priest or homeschooled. Mom and dad should be teaching them everything, even if mom and dad are the ones who are abusing them. They should be teaching them everything. I mean, They don't understand why. Why? Well, they do understand. I shouldn't even say that. I don't want to even give them the benefit, make it seem like I'm giving them the benefit of the doubt. They do not like what you just said. And that's why this is also why they are leveling the attacks they're leveling right now. Dismantle public education, paint enemies as pedophiles or groomers, deny the existence of the LGBT community. And that's just part of it. It gets, obviously more nefarious, even just eliminating all people that don't agree with them.
Can I make a strong statement right here? Because it's late.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, fuck them. Fuck them.
Yeah.
I'm sick of this shit. I'm sick of these people. Like this neighbor of mine with his sign. I consider myself a Christian. Doing that, that's taking the Lord's name in vain, because he's using God's existence and some of his
what is the sign?
imagery.
What do the signs say?
It says it's a picture of the cross. Here in my local town, which is near Johnson City, we have these 3 crosses on the side of the hill. And it happens to be on public land. And a group from Wisconsin came in a couple of weeks ago and was putting some litigation towards the city that maybe we should not, which we shouldn't, have these crosses on the side of this hill, because it is public land. That's a First Amendment. There's no establishment of religion, and it's created a whole other level of grievance. And so this guy has a sign. He actually owns a sign company, like another small business tyrant. And it's a picture of the cross. And it says, "If my symbol offends you, look away." It's not a positive message. It's not anything biblical. There's no biblical verse, or it's not a loving message. It's basically a fuck you.
It's also a fake the victimization complex they love too. Just them showing the cross is gonna make people angry at them. No one cares. I don't care. No one cares what you do, what you believe, what you show on your own property. Right. No one minds that at all. People wear friggin' the cross necklace is one of the most commonplace things you'll see. Even here in New York City. People just wear that. No one cares about that. The thing is, you can be happy with what you believe and want to show it off with your own body or self. We just don't want you pushing that shit onto anybody. That's it. That's all. That's all. That goes for any religion. Any religion.
Yeah. I'm a Methodist. I don't push anything on anybody, and I love we had, when I was growing up in this town, there was 2 Jewish families, and it wasn't until I moved to Houston to work for an investment firm until I met a lot of Jewish folks. I mean, it sounds bad, but I made friends with a lot of Jewish people.
No, I'm sure, and where you are in Tennessee, there probably isn't a large. Yeah. I mean, I was actually as someone who's I'm not Jewish myself religiously, but I'm my dad's Jewish, and according to my own DNA, I'm an Ashkenazi Jew.
Yeah.
I remember even myself being surprised not too long ago to find out just how many, and there's not many, just how few, I should say, Jewish communities, Jewish areas there are in the United States. There's not many. If you live in New York City, you would assume that, knowing Jewish people is just a normal thing, because I grew up in Jewish areas. Half my friends throughout my life have probably been Jewish.
You get to hang out with Sam Cedar.
Sam Cedar, of course, doesn't get any more Jewish than that.
Doesn't get any better.
Right. Outside of certain little conclaves, little spots, I mean, there's not many Jews in the U.S. Which is why a lot of those conspiracy theories flourish, because again, you don't know anyone who is whatever you are hearing about. You have nothing to base it on. It's the same thing as people who, back in the day, didn't know any gay people because all their gay friends were still in the closet. And then they found out that their best buddy for the past 50 years is actually gay. And they go, but Gary was always great. I love Gary. Gay people must be great. They should get married too because my friend Gary's a good guy. And then that's why the people move towards more accepting of gays and lesbians.
Matt, I met my first gay friend in the most crazy place you would never believe, but here near Johnson City, the first gay person I ever encountered, who was an older guy, a bit older than me, was in my church, First Baptist Church. There was a guy, and he was a deacon, and this was like one of the nicest guys, and he just happened to be gay. This was in the mid '80s too, and it was another thing that colored my experience here. I was like, man, this is one of the nicest. I hate even saying like that because it's like, oh, here's, I don't, it kind of sounds like here's one of the good ones, but this person I met, that colored it gave me a great perspective, and it was strange that I met this person who was a deacon at our church, and so I, like I said, I think this is all of one big ball that they've got rolling at us, because God knows there's no policy coming from these people. There's no health care in 2 weeks. There's no benefits coming. There's no, we're one of the most immiserated states. We rank in the bottom 10 in just about every category. So this kind of crap is what our legislature does. It goes into session usually around the second week of January, ends in May. And they just pump out this shit for 4 months. Right. And I'm gonna let some other folks jump on here.
Thanks for the call,
like that shirt.
Zach.
I was wondering, I was wondering if you heard the new. Have you heard the new Chili Peppers?
No, I'm not a big Red Hot Chili Peppers guy, but they're good. I'm just, they're just not my thing.
Well, I'm a big Frusciante fan.
I'm a
big Frusciante fan.
Back the band that everyone usually talks about that they want me to play my songs, like the band that I was in back in the day. We were a punk band, but our guitarist was also a huge Frusciante fan. It took a lot of influence from him. So I feel that.
He's killer. All right, brother. Well, hey, man, y'all have a good rest of your week, and send our best to Sam. I hope he gets well. You stay away from him.
Right,
obviously,
thank you for.
Can't be trusted to follow health protocols. So you take care of yourself. All right.
All right, will do.
Easter weekend.
Thank you.
Right. Check you later.
Bye.
See you. Bye.
And thanks for reminding me. Well wishes to Sam Cedar, who's got COVID. Hope everything goes well. And like I tweeted at him, if the rest of the crew got sick because he gave it to them, Bradley and I are ready to step in at a moment's notice and not just do, the fun half Thursdays, but also do every other day. What time is it? All right. I could take one last call. Hey, what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, my name is... Wait, sorry, is this the Mark Binder show?
No, it's not the Mark Binder show. I'm sorry. It's the Matt Binder show.
Well,
it's actually doomed.
I got a bad pronunciation. My name is Robbie Robsman.
Robbie Robsman.
I wanted to call in. I won't take up a lot of your time, but my brother's been calling into your other show.
Oh, your brother. Who is your brother?
His name's Cameron Robson.
Oh,
and he's like a
the
big
Bitcoin miner,
dude.
Right.
Yeah. And I just wanted to I just wanted to alert you to. You gotta not trust this guy. Like, this is a bad dude.
He's not good.
And
your own brother. You said this about your own brother.
Yeah, I'm not someone, but what he's been doing, he's been going down a dangerous path.
What is it? It's about the crypto stuff or no? Or something else?
Well, the crypto stuff is one thing, but when you deal with these crypto people, there's always some subterranean, sketchy activity that's going on.
Mm-hmm, right. Sure.
And I won't say anything to suggest that this is any kind of like Anna Delvey situation or anything like that. But I just wanted to alert you. Like, then the next time he calls into your show, that there might be something that you should be questioning more.
All right, I'll have to do that, I guess. I'll have to question when he calls in. I mean, I feel like I've already been skeptical about a number of his claims, such as his Bitcoin mining operation, but I'll definitely be more skeptical.
Okay, whatever you say, man.
I'll have to be a little bit more right. And
Frankly,
what did you say?
I'm a little suspicious of
What did you
your
say?
operation as well.
Oh, are you? What would you say? What did you say your name was again, so I could let him know that you called in when he calls in next time?
My name is Carney Ratman.
That's not what you said before.
Bullshit.
Cameron's brother. I'm gonna tell you something. I hope you don't take this the wrong way, but I think you lied to me at first about what your name is, because I remember you said it was like Cammy Robinson.
Listen, I'm not putting up with this anymore, and I'm gonna hang up right now.
All right, thank you for calling and have a great night. I try to keep, my new thing now is to try to keep him on as much as possible, because because he always comes on with something. But now I want to put him on the spot where he's got to do a little improv on the spot. All right. If someone calls in right now, like right this very minute, I'll take it. Otherwise, I don't want to do a countdown because I don't know where you guys are. I'm going to go for it. Ready? I will be no longer taking calls in 5, 4, 3, 2. Ooh, you got in just in the nick of time. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, how's it going, Matt?
Going good. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
It's Sean from Ontario.
Hey, Sean from Ontario. What would you like to talk about?
Little correction for Kowalski. He said that it's real hard to do drilling in the far north in the winter. It's not. That's probably one of the better times to do exploration. A lot of the swamps and bogs are frozen up. And
Are you
you can,
are you going against what Kowalski said? Wow.
when it comes to mining, yeah. I
Ooh.
screwed up on some words a couple of weeks ago, and he got a little flustered or pissed off, and I was wrong. But when it comes to mining, yeah.
I love, we got a little feud going on now. Kowalski, are you in the mining business?
No, I'm adjacent. Geoscience. I'm not a geoscientist, but I support the industry by my work, not by my preference.
not to laugh at what you just said, but I'm trying to make you support the what was it that you said? I love it.
Geoscience.
You support the
geology,
geoscience industry.
Stuff like that, yeah.
You're just like a hobby, like you're interested in like rocks or something?
No, employer.
Oh, okay. I mean, there are people who are into rocks. I mean, my 6-year-old got one of those what are they called? That for Christmas he got that machine that like shakes them for 3 days. What are you saying?
Rock polishers. Yeah, got some.
No, there's some name for it. It's not just a rock polisher. There's some name. You got to leave it on for 3 fucking days for this thing to grind these rocks down, to like smooth them out. And then you open it up, look at them, see if they're smoothed out enough. And if not, you put them back in the fucking thing for 3 more days. We did it once.
No, you get the more gritty or the finer grit sand, and then you can polish them again, and they keep getting finer and finer each time.
Hellfire Acid Face in the chat must also be someone who supports the geoscience industry, because they just pulled through. It's called a rock tumbler.
Yeah, rock tumbler. Yeah, okay.
So my son got like one for his for Christmas, because he's a big fan into like all that science stuff, which is great. Support all that. I hope he, but this tumbler was the loudest fucking thing in the world in our small ass New York City apartment.
Speaking.
And it had to be on for 3 days straight that we let him do it once, get his smooth ass rocks, and then that shit went right back to the store. Went right back to the store. He could get any other. He could get a chemistry set, a like a model volcano, whatever he wants. Rock tumblers can't do it. We need a bigger. We need to like. You need more. You need to like. If you have a rock tumbler, you need to like put that shit in your basement. You need to have a house. So it's out of a sight, out of mind. You don't hear it in a 1-floor, small New York City apartment. You hear it everywhere. You can't have a rock tumbler.
I'm sure your neighbors absolutely loved you. Yeah,
that
we got
too. I
through
wonder what our downstairs neighbor heard. Yeah, because that shit was just shaking on the floor nonstop 3 days straight.
Yeah. No, ours ended up in the garage. It's still there, buried.
Yeah, a garage. If you have a garage, yeah, of course. You just put that shit outside in your backyard, whatever. But can't do it here.
So real quick, I know you've got to be real tired. Great show tonight. Thank you so much. You got me through some work actually. But last year there was one of those containers, like a cryptocurrency mining container, found just outside Calgary, Alberta. And what they'd set up is 4 1.25 megawatt generators that were burning off the excess methane from an old well. And apparently it sounded like a jet turbine. That's what the news article said. It was making a hell of a lot of noise.
Oh, yeah.
Now, so I'm going to kind of support the idea of using these old wells, but my purpose would be to tax them and then use the money to go and cap and check all of the other gas wells that have been drilled in the past, because Alberta alone has over 70,000 of these old wells that are just being, left. Some of them are well capped, and then other ones, wildcat miner comes, pulls the gas, and then moves on. So there's a huge issue there. And this is in the news more frequently now because in Ontario last summer, there was a little town called Wheatley, Ontario, and some 19th century gas wells are believed to have exploded and killed 7 people in that town.
Wow.
So, I mean, 19th century, probably late 1800s, couple hundred, 150 years later, they're exploding, and so that's a real danger that is going to be affecting a lot of communities.
Right. Yes. That is. Wow. You left me speechless. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
And again, I work with a geologist who's working on trying to find a whole bunch of them in Ontario, and we don't have records for it at all.
Unbelievable. I mean, believable, but I say unbelievable when shit is stunning to me. I mean, yeah. I mean, I'm against anything that that incentivizes in any way continuing the use of this. Like we should simply be using whatever necessary to simply start to come off of it. But that's not where we are.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, we've got to leave it in the ground.
Right.
That evidence is in that. But, as long as we've got this perverse incentive structure that's rewarding for wasting it on crypto, these outsized returns on crypto when you could use that energy for a lot of other things or just not use it at all, it's kind of ridiculous. I mean, it's capitalism. The market is failing on that one for sure.
Right. All right.
Anyway, I'll let you get to bed. Thank you so much.
Thanks for the call, Sean. Really appreciate it. And it was nice to hear someone put Kowalski in his place.
Yeah.
Have a great night.
Yeah, you too. Bye-bye.
Bye. All right, folks. Man, we had so many people try to call in at that last minute. I feel bad. I think we just gotta. I think it's just too much for tonight. I'm gonna have to. I think, not take any more calls It's already midnight here. Ooh, we're going on 3. We're at the 3-hour mark. Okay, definitely got to drop the calls. Sorry, guys, no more calls. I'm signing out of the Skype. I wanted to do one quick story here. So you probably heard by now that there was a terrorist attack of sorts in New York City today. There was this morning, people in Sunset Park, Brooklyn, were commuting, and basically, all of a sudden, a smoke bomb goes off in one of the subway cars that people were in, and gunshots went off. And according to the video we've seen, the doors open and people come running out. Smoke fills the air. And something like, what is this? 29 people were injured. 10 people were shot. 13 more hurt. It's believed there was talk about a bomb being set off, but it seems like at this point that there were undetonated devices found. And the people who were injured got injured when the smoke bomb went off, and then the individual started shooting. According to authorities, there is an individual thereafter, a person of interest by the name of Frank James. I'm not going to show any videos or photos of him because I want to be sure that this is the person we're looking for. It is what, and if the person they're looking for matches up with the videos that I've seen of him, he seems like he is like a, there's been a, just like how, there's been all sorts of extremist groups coming up. It seems like this individual is part of that weird, very small current subculture that's come up of black supremacists, extremists in that world. But we need to find out more so far as to what his motives were. A lot of them tend to have very right-wing views, to be quite frank. I mean, other than obviously on issues of race, there are other views, especially like on women, like the type. I don't know if this is him specifically, but I would put like hoteps in that category of like black supremacists. They're not progressive. They have, especially in views of women, feminism, very backwards views there usually. But yeah, that's what it seems like this person is. But that's not why I'm bringing it up. Because again, once we know more, I'll be happy to do episodes on it. I've been meaning to do episodes on hoteps in general. But we will put that in the pocket till when we know more. But what I wanted to bring up is the answer from, our wonderful mayor, Eric Adams, here in New York City. What he wants to do, obviously, is double the amount of police officers in the subway. That's his idea right now. That's his answer to what's going on. We already have an insane amount of cops in our subway system. There are 3,500 subway cops in New York City. Basically, if you live in New York City and you ever take the subway, you know how it is. You see them. They're usually looking at their phones in the subway station, standing by the turnstiles, maybe walking down the platform, literally doing much of nothing, to be quite frank. Really there to harass fare evaders, which not the best use of their time. Because again, we're talking about paying these cops, I don't know how much hourly they make, but a lot more than like the $2.50 the fare evader is evading. So basically we got cops being more cops being thrown as a solution to this situation. But I mean, what did the cops do? What did the cops do there? I can tell you what the cops did there. Nothing. Nothing at all. The cops did not prevent what happened today from happening. They didn't catch the guy. The suspect is still on the run. They didn't help the victims. In fact, this story right here from the New York Times, as panic arose among riders and they began running for the exit, the person the New York Times spoke with heard someone calling for a doctor and followed that person to the front of the train. In one of the cars towards the front, he saw 3 people who were injured and being attended to by bystanders. A uniformed officer approached and said his radio was not working and told the passengers to call 911. So here we have injured people on the ground, shot in this subway car that was filled with smoke and a shooter opened fire. Regular, ordinary, everyday citizens attending to these people, good Samaritans attending to the injured. Not even running for themselves. They don't know if the shooter's still there in the vicinity. Going out of their way to take care of these injured people who were with them on the subway car. And a cop approaches them and says, "Hey, you got to call 911. A cop literally telling them to call the cops. What, if Eric Adams had his way, there would have been a bunch of cops down there saying, "Hey, call the cops. Call 911. What are we supposed to do?" I mean, if you watch the video, the some of the heroes here are actually, other than who I just mentioned, those good Samaritans who were on the subway, are also the train conductors. The train where this all happened, it stopped. It didn't move. Everyone got out, left, attended to the injured. And then another subway pulled up. And I guess the subway conductors got information on that secondary subway. And they told the people on the platform, "Get on this train now. Get on the train. Everyone on the platform, get on the train." Because they have no idea what's going on. They have no idea if the shooter's still there. They have no idea if there's an active situation right there on the platform. Their number one idea is to get those people onto the train to get them to a station where they could be helped. And so everyone who's on that platform gets on the train and gets removed from that situation. Get everyone out of that station ASAP, get them somewhere where this didn't occur. And that's what those conductors did. With help from those good Samaritans, obviously. And then on top of that, apparently, the cops who were there, the suspect escaped. They didn't stop him. They couldn't, The cameras that are there, how many subway cameras here? This is from CBS News. There are 10,000 cameras across 472 subway stations. According to CBS, all those cameras are operational except for the 3 at that station. This is what our funding goes to, for the security provided by the NYPD. And I'm sure, security, and I'm sure, defense contractors too. And this from the Rolling Stone, which the NYPD is refuting, but this is from the Rolling Stone. According to an NYPD source, the subway shooter escaped because what may have actually been enabled by police error. The shooting happened while the Manhattan-bound N train was in between 59th and 36th Street. When the train pulled up to 36th Street, Victims poured onto the platform as smoke from munitions let off by the gas mask-wearing shooter billowed out from the train car. However, the local duty captain from the Brooklyn South Patrol reportedly did not freeze all trains in and out of the 36th Street station, which is a transfer point for the N, R, and D trains. How were they able to identify the shooter, by the way? Because the shooter left a credit card at the scene that was used to rent the U-Haul cargo van that he used to trek to NYC. I mean, we still wouldn't know who he was if it wasn't for his error, I'm sure. I mean, I still can't get over the uniformed officer telling the people on the ground in pain after being shot, and then the Good Samaritans who were tending to them, the uniformed cop saying, hey, call the cops. Unbelievable. 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 Truly unbelievable. I mean, not really unbelievable. Totally believable. And our mayor, telling us that we need more cops. Our mayor, who's currently in isolation in Gracie Mansion, after weeks of telling everyone to stop being lazy, get back to work. It's time to take off the pajamas if you're working remotely and get back into the office, because the real estate industry that funds my campaign and pays big money to various different New York City institutions, we can't have them losing money because of all this empty office space. You plebes get back to work during a pandemic. Our mayor, who just said this multiple times just a few weeks ago, is in isolation because he got COVID. What a mistake it was for New York City to fucking elect that guy. All right, folks. Let me read the super chats, and then that's the show. Paddle Duck with a super chat. Thanks for the Left Coast Right Watch interview. That was interesting, Matt. Thank you. Omega with a super chat. Kane is on board with that gross law and more pyro. Right. Thank you, Omega, for that. Mayor Kane in Knox County, Tennessee. Right. Man Shovel with a $10 super chat. Keep up the great work, Matt. Up the punks, left is best. Lisa Leitner with the $10 super chat. Great guest. Thanks for the offerings I can't get anywhere else. Thank you for the kind words. And also thank you for realizing that. It means a lot, truthfully, Lisa. And then this is not a super chat, but Kowalski with a really funny comment that I caught. And also, he gives many super chats all the time anyway. Kowalski says, geoscience is impossible without agriculture. I win by default, says Kowalski. And I should have ended it there, but I got to thank the Twitch folks. Once again, Twitch Prime if you haven't already. Thanks to all the Twitch Prime subscribers who subscribed over the past few days. We got Quagga with a Twitch Prime subscription. AC Sal, the DC Cape Punk, Twisted Sick, Ferngen, Anonymous Gifter, Cactus Danny, DJ Dub D, Zen Cyclist with the Bit Cheer, Rico, VFMR Centrist, King Pawn 2, Sid Fishes with the bits, Brenneman, El Rayito. Oh no, these are people who followed me. Sorry about that. Anonymous Gifter. Lots of obscure bullshit. Like Lyrisel. Knifist Sharp. Amused Mob. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the Twitch subscriptions. Again, great way to pass money from Amazon to me without any additional cost to you. And of course, if you want to just subscribe without the Prime subscription freebie, you're welcome to do that too. And if you're a live stream listener, patreon.com/MattBinder. Appreciate the support. Who should I raid on Twitch? Who should I raid my Twitch friends and followers? Let me. I should have asked that before reading, and then I could have read while you guys gave me who I should raid. But yeah, I gotta get better when it comes to thinking this in advance. Nobody has any clue. Nobody has any clue who I should raid. But let's see who's on right now. I don't know who's on right now. No one I follow apparently is on right now. Yeah, I always raid Amy EC3. And I don't mind doing it, but I want to spread the love. Is there anyone else? I think Amy EC3 is the only one who regularly is on when I stream. But is Julian Feld streaming right now? He is. I got a lot more people watching than me, though. Let's see who else I could raid. I'm going to try to help a smaller streamer, but I will raid Julian if no one else. Frogan's got the same amount of people. All right, I'll do Julian, because 2 people said Julian. So let's do Julian. And I'll follow him too, because I meant to follow. Julian. So let's do this. Let's raid Julian. All right, folks. Thank you so much for all the support. Always a pleasure. Be sure to check out Scam Economy on Thursday. And I will see you all. And make sure to tell Julian if you're in the Twitch raid to everyone should be who's watching him should follow Matt Binder's channel. Let's do this. See you all next time on Doomed.